Hey, where are you watching this from? If you're enjoying this story of love, resilience, and the true meaning of family, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support means the world to us. Now, let me take you into a story that will touch your heart and remind you that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we choose. The August heat of Atlanta pressed down like a suffocating blanket as Elena Hayes stepped off the MARTA bus at the Buckhead station. Her worn sneakers clicked against the pristine sidewalk as she made her way through the tree-lined streets where million-dollar homes stood like monuments to success. At 34, Elena had cleaned enough houses to know the difference between a home and a showcase, and the Coleman residence at 2847 Peachtree Heights Avenue definitely fell into the latter category. The three-story Georgian colonial loomed before her, its red brick facade and white columns speaking of old money and older traditions. Elena smoothed her simple black dress, her interview outfit, and approached the imposing front door. Before she could ring the bell, a middle-aged Latina woman with tired eyes opened it. "You must be Elena," the woman said in accented English. "I'm Rosa Martinez. I've been waiting for you." But before Elena could respond, a piercing scream echoed from somewhere above them, followed by the sound of something heavy hitting a wall. "Dios mío!" Rosa crossed herself quickly. "She's at it again." "Who's screaming?" Elena asked, her maternal instincts immediately on high alert. Rosa's face darkened. "Maya, the little girl. Come, we need to talk before—" Another scream, this one more desperate, cut through the air. Elena didn't wait for permission. She brushed past Rosa and headed for the curved staircase, taking the marble steps two at a time. "Espera, wait," Rosa called after her. "Mrs. Sterling won't like—" "I don't care what Mrs. Sterling likes," Elena shot back, following the sound of muffled sobs down a long hallway lined with family portraits. None of them showed the same little girl. The crying was coming from behind a heavy oak door. Elena pressed her ear against it and heard a small voice pleading in broken words, "Hungry, please, so hungry." Without hesitation, Elena turned the brass doorknob. Locked. "Maya?" she called softly. "Maya, sweetie, my name is Elena. Can you hear me?" The crying stopped abruptly. Who are you?" came a small voice. "I'm going to help you, okay? Can you unlock the door for me?" "I can't. She locked it from outside. I'm scared." Eleanor's heart clenched. She examined the old-fashioned skeleton key lock and noticed the key was still in it, turned from the outside. With careful fingers, she turned it and heard the satisfying click of freedom. The door swung open to reveal a little girl with the distinctive features of Down syndrome sitting on a small bed, her blonde hair matted with tears, her clothes rumpled. Despite her condition, Maya's blue eyes held an intelligence that took Elena's breath away. "Hi there, beautiful," Elena whispered, kneeling down to Maya's eye level. "I'm Elena. What's your name?" "Maya," the child said shyly. "Are you nice?" "Vivian says most people aren't nice to girls like me." The casual cruelty of that statement hit Elena like a physical blow. "Well, Maya, I think girls like you are the most special girls in the world." "Now you said you were hungry?" Maya nodded eagerly. "I didn't get breakfast. Vivian said she forgot, but she didn't forget. She just didn't want to." Elena felt a familiar rage building in her chest. The same rage she'd felt watching her younger brother Jake struggle with a world that wasn't always kind to people with disabilities. But she kept her voice gentle. "Well, that's not right, is it? Let's go get you something to eat." As Elena stood and extended her hand, Maya hesitated. "Vivian says I'm not allowed downstairs when she has meetings. I don't see Vivian anywhere, do you?" Maya giggled, a sound like silver bells, and took Elena's hand. Her small fingers felt so fragile, yet Elena could sense a strength there that had been buried under layers of fear and neglect. They made their way downstairs where Rosa was pacing in the marble foyer, wringing her hands. "Elena, you don't understand. Mrs. Sterling specifically said—" "Mrs. Sterling isn't here," Elena interrupted firmly. "This child is hungry. Where's the kitchen?" Rosa led them through a formal dining room that could seat 20 into a gourmet kitchen that belonged in a magazine. Granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, and a center island larger than Elena's entire apartment back in East Atlanta. "What would you like, sweetheart?" Elena asked Maya, who was staring at the kitchen like she'd never seen it before. I don't know. I usually just get crackers. Just crackers. Eleanor's voice was dangerously quiet. Rosa stepped closer. Mrs. Sterling says Maya has digestion problems. Special diet. Elena looked at Maya, really looked at her. The child was thin, too thin. Her clothes hung loose on her small frame, and there were dark circles under her bright eyes. Maya, do you like peanut butter and jelly? The little girl's face lit up like Christmas morning. I love it. But Vivian says it's too messy for me. Well, I happen to think mess is part of the fun. As Elena moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, she became aware of Maya watching her every movement with fascination. She assembled the sandwich with deliberate care, cutting off the crusts and slicing it into triangles. There you go, princess, she said, placing the plate in front of Maya along with a glass of cold milk. Maya stared at the sandwich for a moment, then looked up at Elena with tears in her eyes. It's beautiful. It's just a sandwich, honey. No, Maya said seriously. It's made with love. I can tell the difference. Elena felt her own eyes misting as she watched Maya take careful, grateful bites. In that moment, she knew her life had just changed forever. The front door slammed with the force of an earthquake. Rosa! Where the hell is everyone? The voice was sharp, cultured and filled with barely contained fury. Maya immediately tensed, the sandwich falling from her hands onto the plate. Quick! Rosa whispered urgently. Mrs. Sterling is back early. But Elena stood her ground, placing a protective hand on Maya's shoulder. It's okay, sweetheart. Finish your sandwich. Footsteps clicked across marble, growing closer and more aggressive with each step. When Vivian Sterling swept into the kitchen, Elena understood immediately why this house felt more like a museum than a home. Vivian was beautiful in the way that money could buy, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, designer clothes that fit like they were painted on, and makeup applied with surgical precision. But her green eyes were cold as winter, and when they landed on Maya eating at the kitchen island, they narrowed with unmistakable displeasure. What is this? Vivian's voice could have frozen fire. I'm Elena Hayes, Elena said, standing straighter. I'm here for the housekeeping position. I can see that. What I'm asking is why my stepdaughter is eating in my kitchen when she knows perfectly well she's supposed to be in her room. She was locked in her room and she was hungry. Something dangerous flickered in Vivian's eyes. Maya has very specific dietary requirements due to her condition. She's not supposed to eat without supervision. Whose supervision? Mine. Eleanor looked pointedly at Maya, then back at Vivian. And where were you? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Vivian stepped closer, and Elena caught a whiff of expensive perfume mixed with something else, the scent of someone who had never been told no. Ms. Hayes, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The position requires someone who follows instructions, not someone who thinks they know better than the family they work for. And the family requires someone who takes care of children, not someone who locks them away and forgets to feed them. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Maya had stopped eating and was watching the exchange with wide, frightened eyes. Finally, Vivian smiled, an expression that never reached her eyes. Maya, go to your room. Now. But I'm not finished. Now. Maya looked at Eleanor with such longing that it broke her heart. Eleanor knelt down and whispered, Take the sandwich with you, okay? We'll finish our talk later. Maya nodded and carefully picked up her plate. As she passed Vivian, the woman's hand shot out and grabbed the child's wrist. Wipe your face, you look like an animal. The grip was too tight. Elena could see it in the way Maya winced. But the little girl just nodded and reached for a napkin with her free hand. When Maya was gone, Vivian turned back to Elena with renewed venom. Let me be very clear, Ms. Hayes. Maya is a special needs child who requires structure and discipline. She has behavioral problems that stem from her disability, and coddling her only makes things worse. If you can't follow my rules regarding her care, then perhaps this position isn't for you. Eleanor met her gaze steadily. And what exactly are those rules? Maya eats what I tell her to eat, when I tell her to eat it. She stays in her room during business hours unless specifically permitted to come out. She does not manipulate the help with crocodile tears and sob stories. And most importantly, she learns that actions have consequences. And what action required her to be locked in her room without breakfast? Vivian's smile was razor-sharp. She wet the bed again. At 8 years old. It's unacceptable. Elena had worked with enough children to know that bedwetting was normal, especially for kids who were stressed or scared. The fact that Vivian was punishing Maya for it revealed everything Elena needed to know about the kind of woman she was dealing with. "I see," Elena said carefully. "And where is Maya's father in all this?" "Derek is a very busy man. He trusts me to handle domestic matters, especially concerning Maya. He adopted her when she was 3 after her mother died. Poor man had no idea what he was getting into." Vivian's tone suggested she considered Derek's adoption of Maya to be a personal inconvenience. "I understand," Elena said, though she understood far more than Vivian realized. "Good. Now Rosa will show you your duties. The house needs to be spotless at all times. Derek entertains clients here frequently. Maya's needs are secondary to maintaining the household. Are we clear?" "Crystal." As Vivian click-clacked out of the kitchen on her designer heels, Rosa approached Elena with worried eyes. "She wasn't always like this," Rosa whispered. "When Derek first married her 2 years ago, she tried harder. But Maya isn't easy for her. Maya seems like a sweet child. She is. But Vivian, she expected Derek to put Maya in a home after they married. When he refused, she began to resent the girl. And resentment in this house has a way of growing into something darker." Eleanor looked toward the stairs where Maya had disappeared. She thought of her brother Jake, who had faced his own struggles with Down syndrome until he passed away at 19 from heart complications. She remembered the teachers who had given up on him, the kids who had mocked him, the adults who had spoken about him like he wasn't in the room. She also remembered the people who had seen Jake's light, his infectious laugh, his artistic talent, his ability to love unconditionally. Maya had that same light. Eleanor could see it. But in this house, under Vivian's care, that light was being systematically dimmed. "Rosa," Elena said quietly, "how long has Maya been locked in her room during the day?" Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "It started small, an hour here and there when she was difficult. But lately it's been most of the day. Vivian says it's for Maya's own good, that she needs to learn boundaries." "And Derek doesn't know?" "Derek leaves for work at 7 and doesn't come home until after 6. On weekends, Vivian makes sure to take Maya out, show what a caring stepmother she is. Maya is too scared to tell her father the truth." Eleanor's decision crystallized in that moment. She thought of Jake's face, of all the Jakes in the world who needed someone to fight for them. "Well," she said, untying the apron Rosa had handed her, "I guess it's time someone started telling the truth." But as she headed toward the stairs to check on Maya, Eleanor had no idea that her first day in the Coleman house would be the beginning of a battle that would test everything she believed about love, family, and the lengths a person would go to protect an innocent child. From somewhere upstairs, she could hear Maya humming a soft, sad melody. It was a sound that would haunt Elena's dreams and fuel her determination for everything that was about to come. Elena's second week at the Coleman house revealed the true extent of Maya's daily nightmare. Each morning, Elena arrived at 7:30 to find Maya already locked in her room, often crying from hunger or loneliness. The pattern was always the same. Vivian would emerge from the master bedroom perfectly groomed, Derek would leave for his tech company downtown, and Maya would become invisible. On this particular Tuesday morning, Eleanor found Maya sitting on her bedroom floor, frantically trying to clean up scattered puzzle pieces with her small hands. "Sweetheart, what happened?" Elena asked, kneeling beside the little girl. Maya's eyes were red from crying. "I dropped it. Vivian said if I made any noise while Daddy was sleeping, she would tell him I was being bad again." Eleanor noticed the way Maya's right wrist was slightly red and swollen. "Maya, did someone grab your arm?" The child looked away quickly. "I fell." But Elena had seen enough grabbed wrists in her life to know the difference. She gently took Maya's hand in hers, examining the finger-shaped marks that were just beginning to fade. "Honey, it's okay to tell me the truth. I won't let anyone hurt you." Maya searched Elena's face with those intelligent blue eyes. "Promise?" "I promise. Vivian gets really mad when I make mistakes. She says I'm too old to act like a baby, but sometimes I don't understand what she wants me to do. Yesterday, she told me to put my toys away, but when I did it wrong, she grabbed me and said I was being defiant." Eleanor's hands clenched into fists, but she kept her voice gentle. "What does defiant mean to you?" Maya's brow furrowed in concentration. I think it means when I'm not good enough. The casual acceptance in Maya's voice, as if being not good enough was simply a fact of her existence, made Eleanor's heart ache. She helped Maya finish picking up the puzzle pieces, noting that it was a complex 100-piece puzzle meant for much older children. This is pretty advanced, Maya. You're really smart to be working on this. Maya beamed with pride. Really? Vivian says I'm slow. She says that's why I can't do normal kid things. What kind of normal kid things does she say you can't do? Like go to regular school or have friends over or eat dinner with them when Daddy has work people over? She says I would embarrass the family. Elena felt that familiar rage building again, but she channeled it into determination. Maya, would you like me to teach you some things? We could make it our secret. What kind of things? Well, I noticed you know some letters already. Maybe we could work on reading and counting. And I saw you trying to tie your shoes yesterday. Maya's face lit up like the 4th of July. You would do that? For me? I would love to do that with you. For the next hour, while Vivian was at her Pilates class, Eleanor worked with Maya in the little girl's room. She was amazed by Maya's eagerness to learn and her remarkable memory. Within 30 minutes, Maya had mastered counting to 20 and was beginning to recognize basic sight words. Eleanor, Maya said during a break, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Maya lowered her voice to a whisper. Sometimes when Vivian gets really angry, I draw pictures. Want to see? She pulled out a worn notebook from under her mattress. Eleanor's blood chilled as she flipped through the pages. Stick figure drawings showed a large figure with angry scribbles for a face, standing over a small figure with tears. Other drawings showed the small figure locked behind lines that Elena realized were meant to represent the bedroom door. This is you, Elena asked gently, pointing to the small figure. Maya nodded. And that's Vivian. See how her mouth is all jagged? That's her angry voice. It sounds like glass breaking. The artistic metaphor from a child with Down syndrome was so precise and heartbreaking that Eleanor had to look away for a moment to compose herself. Maya, has Vivian ever hit you? Maya was quiet for a long time. She says it's not hitting. She says it's discipline. Like when she squeezes my arms really tight or pushes me against the wall or locks me in the closet when I don't stop crying fast enough. The closet? It's really dark in there. And small. I don't like small, dark places. Eleanor closed the notebook and pulled Maya into a hug. The little girl melted into her arms like she'd been waiting her whole life for this kind of gentle affection. Maya, I need you to know something very important. Adults should never hurt children, even when they're trying to teach them something. And you are not slow or bad or embarrassing. You are perfect exactly as you are. But Vivian says, Vivian is wrong. About everything. That afternoon when Derek came home, Elena watched him interact with Maya from the kitchen doorway. The contrast was startling. Derek was gentle, patient, and clearly loved his daughter. But there was also a distance there, as if he wasn't quite sure how to connect with her. How was school today, sweetheart? Derek asked, lifting Maya onto his lap. Good, Daddy. We learned about butterflies. Did you know they start as caterpillars? I did know that. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Maya nodded enthusiastically, then her face fell slightly. Vivian says I can't have the butterfly book from school because it might get damaged. Elena saw Derek's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Why would it get damaged? Because I'm clumsy and I break things. Derek looked over Maya's head toward the kitchen, where Vivian was discussing dinner plans with Rosa. Elena noticed the questioning look in his eyes, the first crack in his trust. Maya, Derek said carefully, do you like your teacher at school? Oh yes, Mrs. Patterson says I'm one of her best students. She says I'm really good at art and that I remember things better than most kids. Derek's eyebrows raised. Really? Uh-huh. She wants to put my butterfly drawing on the wall for everyone to see. But Vivian says we shouldn't brag because it makes other people feel bad. Eleanor watched Derek's face as he processed this information. She could see him trying to reconcile the bright, capable child on his lap with Vivian's constant reports of Maya being difficult and behind in her development. Would you like to show me your butterfly drawing? Derek asked. Maya's face fell. I can't. Vivian threw it away because I spilled juice on the corner. She threw away your artwork. She said it was ruined anyway, but I was really proud of it. Maya's voice got smaller. It had all the right colors and everything. Derek set Maya down gently. Why don't you go wash up for dinner, sweetheart? As Maya headed upstairs, Derek walked into the kitchen where Vivian was arranging orchids in a crystal vase. Vivian, Derek said carefully, Maya mentioned that you threw away some artwork from school. Vivian didn't look up from her flowers. It was damaged, Derek. I'm trying to teach her to take better care of her things. But she said she was proud of it. Maya gets excited about things that aren't really that impressive. I don't want her to get false ideas about her abilities. It's kinder to be realistic. Eleanor, pretending to clean the already spotless counters, watched Derek's face carefully. She could see him struggling with Vivian's logic, wanting to believe his wife had Maya's best interests at heart. Maybe we could frame her next drawing, Derek suggested. Give her something to be proud of? Vivian's voice carried just a hint of irritation. Derek, you're not around during the day. You don't see how Maya behaves when she doesn't get immediate praise for every little thing. It creates unrealistic expectations. She's 8 years old, Vivian. 8-year-olds should get praise for their efforts. 8-year-olds with Maya's condition need structure and realistic expectations. The school fills her head with ideas about being special and gifted, but then I have to deal with the tantrums when real life doesn't match up to that. Elena couldn't stay quiet anymore. Excuse me, she said, turning from the counter. I couldn't help but overhear. Maya shows me her schoolwork sometimes, and it really is quite impressive for her age. Vivian's green eyes turned arctic. Eleanor, you've been here 2 weeks. I've been Maya's mother for 2 years. Stepmother, Derek corrected quietly. The correction hung in the air like smoke. Vivian's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around the flower stems. Of course, stepmother. My point is that I know Maya's patterns. She performs for new people, but it doesn't last. Eleanor hasn't seen her during one of her episodes. What episodes? Derek asked, and Elena could hear genuine concern in his voice. The crying fits when she doesn't get her way, the bedwetting when she's trying to get attention, the way she manipulates people with that innocent act. Derek, honey, I love Maya, but we can't pretend her disability doesn't affect her behavior. Eleanor felt sick listening to Vivian twist normal childhood behaviors into character flaws, but she also saw something else. Derek was beginning to look uncomfortable with his wife's assessment of his daughter. I've never seen Maya have a crying fit that wasn't justified, Derek said slowly. Because you're not here during the day. Trust me, it's different when she thinks no one important is watching. The phrase "no one important" hit Elena like a slap. She realized Vivian had just revealed exactly how she saw Elena, and by extension, how she saw Maya. Actually, Elena said, her voice steady despite her anger, I've been here every day for 2 weeks, and Maya has been nothing but sweet, eager to learn, and remarkably well behaved. The only times I've seen her upset are when she's hungry, scared, or lonely. Vivian's smile was pure poison. Elena, I'm sure you mean well, but you're not qualified to assess a special needs child's behavior. Maya is very good at presenting herself in the best light to people she wants to impress. Who says I'm not qualified? Well, you're a housekeeper, not a child psychologist or special education teacher. Eleanor straightened to her full height. I may be a housekeeper, but I helped raise my younger brother who had Down syndrome. I know the difference between a child who's being difficult and a child who's being mistreated. The word mistreated landed like a bomb in the pristine kitchen. Vivian's face went white, then red, then white again. I think, Vivian said in a voice like winter wind, that you've overstepped your boundaries, Elena. Derek stepped between them. Let's all take a breath here. Eleanor, I appreciate your concern for Maya. Vivian, maybe we should talk privately about Maya's needs. But Elena wasn't backing down. She thought of Maya's drawings, of the finger-shaped bruises, of a little girl who apologized for existing. Mr. Coleman, Elena said directly, when was the last time you had a conversation with Maya's teacher at the Ark of Georgia? Derek looked confused. The Ark? Maya goes to Emory's special education program. Actually, Elena said, feeling the ground shift beneath everyone's feet, Maya has been attending the Ark of Georgia for the past 6 months. She talks about it every day. Mrs. Patterson teaches there. Derek's face went very still. Vivian? Vivian's composure cracked just slightly. There was an opening at the Ark that seemed like a better fit for Maya's needs. I handled the transfer so you wouldn't have to deal with the paperwork. Without discussing it with me? You were so busy with the merger, Derek. I was trying to help. Eleanor watched Derek process this information. She could see him realizing that major decisions about his daughter's education had been made without his knowledge or input. Maya loves Mrs. Patterson, Elena added quietly. She talks about her every day. She's apparently one of the top students in her class. Derek looked at his wife with new eyes. One of the top students? Children with Down syndrome often excel in supportive environments, Elena continued. Maya is bright, artistic, and emotionally intelligent. In the right setting with the right encouragement, there's no limit to what she could achieve. Vivian's mask slipped further. Elena, you're being naive. Maya has limitations that no amount of positive thinking will overcome. The only limitation I see, Elena said with quiet force, is the limitation being placed on her by people who don't believe in her potential. The kitchen fell silent, except for the soft tick of the antique clock on the wall. Derek was staring at Vivian like he was seeing her for the first time, while Vivian looked like she wanted to disappear into the marble floor. Finally, Derek spoke. I think I need to have a conversation with Maya's teacher. Tomorrow. Derek, that's not necessary. It's absolutely necessary, Vivian. Maya is my daughter, and I should know what's happening in her education. Elena saw Maya appear in the doorway, drawn by the tension in the adult voices. The little girl's eyes were wide with worry. Is everything okay? Maya asked in a small voice. Are you fighting about me? Derek immediately softened. No, sweetheart. We're just discussing your school. Come here. Maya ran to her father, but Elena noticed how she gave Vivian a wide berth, like a small animal avoiding a predator. Daddy, did I do something wrong? No, Maya, you didn't do anything wrong. You never do anything wrong. As Derek held his daughter, Eleanor caught Vivian's eyes over their heads. The look the woman gave her was pure hatred, and Eleanor knew she had just made a dangerous enemy. But as Maya's small hand reached out to touch Eleanor's arm, a gesture of trust and affection, Elena also knew she had chosen the right side in this battle. The war for Maya's future had begun, and Elena was prepared to fight with everything she had. Over the following weeks, Elena established a secret routine with Maya that transformed both their lives. Every morning after Derek left for work and Vivian departed for her various social commitments, Elena would unlock Maya's bedroom door and begin what she privately called Maya's real education. The transformation was remarkable. Maya, freed from the constant criticism and fear that Vivian imposed, blossomed like a flower finding sunlight. Elena discovered that the little girl had an almost photographic memory for colors and patterns, could count well beyond 20 when she wasn't being told she was too slow, and had an artistic ability that bordered on genius. Look, Elena, Maya exclaimed one Thursday morning, holding up a drawing she'd made with the art supplies Elena had quietly purchased. It's our garden, but in all the seasons at the same time. Elena studied the artwork with amazement. Maya had divided the paper into 4 sections, showing the same garden view from the kitchen window in spring, summer, fall, and winter. The detail was extraordinary. She'd remembered exactly which flowers bloomed when, how the light fell differently through the trees, even the way the garden furniture was arranged. Maya, this is incredible. You remember all these details. I remember everything, Maya said matter-of-factly. Daddy says I have a special brain. Different, but special. Your daddy is absolutely right. Eleanor had been documenting Maya's progress secretly, taking photos of her artwork and writing down examples of her quick learning. Maya could now tie her shoes, write her full name in careful letters, and was beginning to read simple books. Most impressively, she was developing confidence that radiated from her like warmth. The change didn't go unnoticed. Maya seems different lately, Derek observed one evening as he watched his daughter carefully set the table for dinner. More confident, I guess. Maya beamed at her father. Eleanor teaches me things, Daddy. Want to see me tie my shoes? Before Derek could answer, Maya had plopped down on the floor and was demonstrating her newly mastered skill with obvious pride. Look at that. Derek's voice was filled with wonder. When did you learn to do that? This week. Elena showed me the bunny ears trick. Loop, swoop, and pull. Derek glanced at Elena, who was pretending to be busy arranging flowers. That's amazing, sweetheart. Vivian, who had been notably quiet during this exchange, finally spoke up. Maya, We don't show off at the dinner table. Go wash your hands. The light in Maya's eyes dimmed slightly, but Elena caught her eye and gave her an encouraging wink. Maya's smile returned as she skipped off to the bathroom. She really is remarkable, Derek said to Vivian. I had no idea she was capable of so much. Children with Down syndrome often have spurts of development, Vivian replied dismissively. It doesn't necessarily mean anything long-term. Elena couldn't stay quiet. Actually, with proper encouragement and education, children with Down syndrome can achieve far more than most people expect. Maya has exceptional visual spatial intelligence and remarkable emotional depth. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Elena, you're not a special education expert. Neither are you, Elena replied evenly, but I've seen enough to know that Maya is being underestimated. Derek looked between the two women, clearly sensing the tension. Maybe I should schedule a meeting with Maya's teacher, get a professional assessment of her abilities. That's an excellent idea, Elena said quickly. I really don't think that's necessary, Vivian interjected. Maya is making adequate progress for her condition. Adequate? Derek's voice carried a new edge. She's my daughter, Vivian. I want to know she's reaching her full potential, not just doing adequately. Elena watched this exchange with growing hope. Derek was finally beginning to question Vivian's narrative about Maya's limitations. The next morning, while Vivian was at her book club, Eleanor found Maya in the living room, staring out the large windows at the garden. What are you thinking about, sweetheart? I wish I could go to school with regular kids, Maya said wistfully. Do you think I ever could? Eleanor's heart ached for this little girl who dreamed of inclusion in a world that often saw her as less than. Maya, do you know what inclusion means? Maya shook her head. It means everyone belongs together. Different kinds of people, with different kinds of brains and bodies, all learning and playing together. Some schools have inclusion programs where kids like you learn alongside kids who don't have Down syndrome. Really? Maya's eyes went wide with hope. Really? And you know what? I think you'd do amazingly well in that kind of setting. Vivian says I would never fit in with normal kids. Eleanor knelt down to Maya's level. Maya, there's no such thing as normal kids. There are just kids. Some are good at math, some are good at art, some are good at making friends. You're good at lots of things. Your art is beautiful. You remember details that most adults miss, and you have the kindest heart I've ever seen. Maya threw her arms around Elena's neck. I love you, Elena. You make me feel like I'm enough. Elena hugged her back, blinking away tears. You are more than enough, Maya. You are extraordinary. That afternoon, Derek came home early to find Maya and Elena working on a complex jigsaw puzzle in the living room. Maya was systematically sorting pieces by color and pattern, a strategy that would impress children twice her age. What are you two working on? Derek asked, settling into a chair to watch. It's a puzzle of the solar system, Maya explained, not looking up from her work. See, I put all the dark space pieces here, and all the planet pieces here, and Elena is helping me with the really tricky edge pieces. Derek watched in fascination as Maya selected exactly the right piece for a section of Jupiter's great red spot. Her concentration was complete, her method logical and effective. How many pieces is this puzzle? 500, Elena answered. Maya chose it herself from the puzzle aisle at Target. 500? Derek's voice was amazed. Maya, that's incredible. Maya looked up with shining eyes. Elena says my brain is really good at seeing patterns. She says that's a special gift. Derek met Eleanor's eyes over Maya's head, and she saw gratitude there mixed with something that might have been guilt. She's absolutely right, Derek said softly. You have many special gifts. That evening, after Maya had gone to bed, Derek lingered in the kitchen, where Eleanor was finishing up the dinner dishes. Eleanor, he said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. How long have you been working with Maya on educational things? Eleanor chose her words carefully. Maya is naturally curious. When she asks questions or wants to try something new, I try to encourage that. But the puzzle, the shoe tying, the confidence, that's not just natural curiosity. Someone has been actively teaching her. Eleanor met his gaze directly. Maya is capable of so much more than anyone has been expecting from her. She just needed someone to believe in her potential. Derek was quiet for a long moment. I've been a terrible father, haven't I? You're not a terrible father. You love Maya, but maybe you've been listening to the wrong advice about her capabilities. Vivian keeps telling me that I shouldn't get my hopes up, that it's kinder to have realistic expectations. With respect, Mr. Coleman, whose expectations are we talking about? Maya's or Vivian's? Derek looked toward the stairs where Maya was presumably sleeping. I want to do right by her. Her mother, her biological mother, she died when Maya was 3. Car accident. I was so overwhelmed, so grateful when Vivian came into our lives and seemed to understand how to handle everything. Eleanor felt a piece of the puzzle click into place. And Vivian convinced you that handling everything meant managing Maya's expectations. She said children with Down syndrome can become frustrated and aggressive if they're pushed beyond their abilities, that it was kinder to keep things simple. Mr. Coleman, in the weeks I've been here, have you ever seen Maya become frustrated or aggressive? Derek thought about it. No, she's always been gentle, sweet, because Maya isn't being pushed beyond her abilities. She's being held back from reaching them. The truth of that statement hung in the air between them. Derek rubbed his face with both hands. I spoke with Mrs. Patterson today, he said finally. Eleanor's pulse quickened. Maya's teacher. She had nothing but praise for Maya. Said she's one of the brightest students she's ever taught, that her artistic ability is exceptional, and that she's actually been recommended for an inclusion program at a mainstream school. Eleanor felt hope bloom in her chest. What did you tell her? I told her I had no idea that my wife handles Maya's educational decisions. Derek's voice was heavy with regret. Mrs. Patterson seemed surprised. She said Maya talks about you constantly, that you're teaching her advanced skills at home. Maya is eager to learn. She soaks up new information like a sponge. Mrs. Patterson said the same thing. She also said... Derek hesitated. What? She said Maya has mentioned being scared at home sometimes, that she draws pictures of feeling trapped. Elena's heart stopped. Mr. Coleman, I need to ask you directly, Elena. Is my wife mistreating my daughter? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Elena thought of Maya's bruised wrists, her fear of making noise, the way she flinched when Vivian's voice got sharp. I think, Elena said carefully, that Maya would be happier and safer in an environment where her intelligence is nurtured instead of dismissed, where her natural curiosity is encouraged instead of punished, and where she's treated like the remarkable little girl she is instead of a burden to be managed. Derek's face went very still. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I can give without betraying Maya's trust. But I will say this. Every child deserves to feel safe, loved, and valued in their own home. Derek stared at the granite countertop for a long moment. When he looked up, Elena saw a man who was finally ready to confront some difficult truths. Mrs. Patterson wants to meet with me again next week. She wants to discuss Maya's placement for next year. I think that's wonderful. She mentioned something about inclusion classes at Sagamore Elementary. Said Maya might be ready for that kind of challenge. Elena tried to keep the excitement out of her voice. How do you feel about that? 6 months ago, I would have said it was impossible. Tonight, after watching her with that puzzle, Derek shook his head in wonder. I think I've been underestimating my own daughter. Maya is remarkable, Mr. Coleman. She just needs people who believe in her. As Elena gathered her purse to leave for the night, Derek called after her. Eleanor? Yes? Thank you for seeing Maya the way she deserves to be seen. Eleanor smiled. Thank you for being willing to see it too. But as she walked to the bus stop, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that she and Derek were about to face Vivian's wrath. The woman had built her identity around being indispensable as Maya's caretaker and Derek's wife. If Maya was revealed to be capable and thriving, if Derek started questioning Vivian's methods, Eleanor shivered despite the warm Atlanta evening. She had a feeling that the real battle was just beginning. The meeting with Mrs. Patterson shattered Derek Coleman's world in the best possible way. Sitting in the bright, welcoming classroom at the Arc of Georgia, surrounded by Maya's artwork displayed prominently on the walls, Derek finally understood how profoundly he had been failing his daughter. Maya is extraordinary, Mrs. Patterson explained, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. In my 20 years of teaching children with Down syndrome, I've rarely seen such a combination of artistic talent, emotional intelligence, and academic potential. Derek stared at a watercolor painting labeled Maya Coleman, age 8, that showed their garden with photographic accuracy and breathtaking beauty. She painted this. Last week, Maya has what we call an eidetic memory for visual details. She can recreate scenes with precision that would challenge college art students. But at home she seems to struggle with basic tasks. Mrs. Patterson's expression grew concerned. Mr. Coleman, may I speak frankly? Derek nodded, though he wasn't sure he was ready for what was coming. Children perform differently in different environments. Here, Maya is confident, eager to participate, and academically curious. She reads at a 4th grade level, her math skills are above average for her age, and she's one of our most socially adept students. Mrs. Patterson paused. The Maya I teach bears little resemblance to the struggling child described in reports from home. Derek felt something cold settle in his stomach. What are you saying? I'm saying that Maya's abilities seem to disappear when she's in certain environments or around certain people. That usually indicates that her home environment is either not challenging her appropriately or— Mrs. Patterson hesitated. Or what? Or she's being actively discouraged from showing her capabilities. Derek thought of Vivian's constant refrain that Maya needed to know her limitations, her insistence that encouraging Maya would only lead to disappointment and behavioral problems. Mrs. Patterson, my wife has been very involved in Maya's care. She's always said that we needed to be realistic about Maya's potential. Mr. Coleman, what do you consider realistic for Maya? Derek realized he didn't know how to answer that question. For 2 years, he'd let Vivian define Maya's potential, accepting her assessment that his daughter was limited, difficult, and needed careful management. I honestly don't know anymore. Would you like me to show you what I consider realistic for Maya? Mrs. Patterson led Derek to a portfolio filled with Maya's work from the past 6 months, academic worksheets completed independently, creative writing that showed remarkable insight for an 8-year-old, mathematical problems solved with innovative approaches. Maya could easily succeed in an inclusion classroom, Mrs. Patterson continued. I've been wanting to discuss placement options with you for months, but every time I've suggested a meeting, I was told that Maya wasn't ready for additional challenges. Derek's head was spinning. You've tried to meet with me before? Several times. I was told that you were too busy with work to discuss Maya's advancement. Derek had never received those messages. Vivian handled all communication with Maya's school, just as she handled everything else related to Maya's care. Mrs. Patterson, I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll be honest with me. Of course. Do you have any concerns about Maya's welfare at home? Mrs. Patterson was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing her professional obligations against her concern for her student. Maya has drawn some pictures that concern me, she said finally. Children often express their feelings through art, and Maya's home-themed drawings show patterns of fear and isolation. Can I see them? Mrs. Patterson hesitated, then pulled out a folder. These are from her art therapy sessions. Derek's heart broke as he looked through Maya's drawings. Picture after picture showed a small figure behind bars, locked doors, or hiding in corners, while larger figures loomed overhead with angry expressions. She drew these during school? During times when we were discussing feelings and family. Maya is very articulate about emotions, more so than many neurotypical children her age. She talks about feeling scared to disappoint people, about being too noisy or too messy at home. Derek stared at a drawing that clearly showed Maya in her bedroom, with the door closed and a sad face pressed against the window. Mrs. Patterson, if you suspected a child was being mistreated, what would you do? I would be obligated to report my concerns to the Department of Family and Children's Services, but Mr. Coleman, Maya has never shown physical signs of abuse, and she speaks lovingly of you and Elena. Elena? Your housekeeper. Maya talks about Elena constantly. She credits Elena with teaching her most of the skills she's developed recently. Reading, shoe tying, artistic techniques. Derek felt a complex mix of gratitude toward Elena and shame about his own absence from Maya's development. Mrs. Patterson, I'm Maya's father, and I had no idea she was capable of any of this. What does that make me? Mrs. Patterson's expression softened. It makes you a parent who was given incomplete information about his child. The question now is, what you're going to do with accurate information. Derek looked at Maya's artwork one more time. The beauty, the intelligence, the emotion captured in each piece. This was his daughter. Not the limited, difficult child Vivian described, but a remarkable little girl with unlimited potential. What would inclusion placement look like for Maya? Mrs. Patterson's face lit up. Maya would attend regular classes for subjects where she excels, art, reading, social studies, while receiving specialized support for areas where she needs extra help. She'd have a paraprofessional aid and modified assignments, but she'd be learning alongside neurotypical peers. And you think she's ready for that? Mr. Coleman, Maya has been ready for months. She's been held back by low expectations, not by her disability. Derek drove home in a daze, his mind reeling with everything he'd learned. Maya wasn't just capable, she was gifted. And he'd been so busy working, so grateful to have Vivian handling the difficult aspects of raising a special needs child, that he'd never bothered to see for himself what his daughter could achieve. He arrived home to find Maya and Elena in the kitchen, working on what appeared to be a science experiment. "Daddy!" Maya called out excitedly. "Look, we're making a volcano!" Derek watched in amazement as Maya carefully measured baking soda, explaining to Elena how the chemical reaction would work. The vinegar is an acid and the baking soda is a base, so when they mix they make carbon dioxide gas, and that's what makes the eruption. "Maya, how do you know about acids and bases?" "Elena brought me a science book from the library. Did you know that our stomachs have acid in them to help digest food?" Derek looked at Elena with new appreciation. "You've been teaching her science." "Maya is naturally curious about how things work," Elena replied. "I just try to find books that answer her questions." "Speaking of questions," Derek said, sitting down at the kitchen island, "I have some questions for both of you." Maya immediately looked worried. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. You're not in trouble. I went to see Mrs. Patterson today." Maya's face lit up. "Isn't she the best? Did she show you my paintings?" "She did." "Maya, they're incredible. I had no idea you were such a talented artist. Elena says I have a special way of seeing things. She says my brain notices details that other people miss." Derek met Elena's eyes. "Elena is right. Maya, how would you feel about going to a different school next year? One where you'd be in classes with kids who don't have Down syndrome?" Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? I could do that. Mrs. Patterson thinks you're more than ready. But I wanted to ask how you felt about it. Would I still get to see Mrs. Patterson? We'd work something out. What do you think? Are you brave enough to try something new?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Yes, I want to learn everything. Elena says I'm smart enough to learn anything I want to." Derek felt his throat tighten with emotion. Elena is absolutely right. The front door slammed with Vivian's characteristic announcement of arrival. Derek heard her heels clicking across the marble foyer, her voice calling out, "Derek, you're home early. And what is that mess in the kitchen?" Vivian appeared in the doorway, taking in the science experiment with obvious displeasure. "Maya, you know you're not supposed to make messes with food. Go clean this up immediately." "Actually," Derek said quietly, "Maya is conducting a science experiment. She's learning about chemical reactions." Vivian's smile was razor sharp. "Derek, honey, Maya doesn't need to learn about chemistry. She needs to learn basic life skills. According to Mrs. Patterson, Maya is learning chemistry quite well." Vivian's expression flickered. "You met with Mrs. Patterson?" "I did. We had a very enlightening conversation about Maya's abilities and potential." Elena began quietly cleaning up the experiment materials, but Derek noticed she was listening intently to every word. "Derek, I hope you didn't let Mrs. Patterson fill your head with unrealistic expectations. Teachers at these special schools sometimes exaggerate children's abilities to make parents feel better. Actually, Mrs. Patterson showed me Maya's academic work, reading, math, art, science. Maya is performing above grade level in several subjects." Maya beamed with pride. "Mrs. Patterson says I might be ready for inclusion classes." Vivian's face went very still. "Inclusion classes? Regular school," Maya explained excitedly. "With kids who don't have Down syndrome. Mrs. Patterson thinks I'm smart enough." "Maya," Vivian's voice was dangerously quiet, "go to your room. The adults need to talk." "But Daddy just got home and we were—" "Now, Maya." Derek watched his daughter's face fall, saw the familiar fear creep into her eyes. But this time, instead of accepting Vivian's authority, he stood up. "Maya can stay. This conversation concerns her future, and she has a right to be part of it. Vivian's eyes flashed with anger. Derek, Maya doesn't understand these complex decisions. Children with her condition, children with Down syndrome, Derek interrupted firmly, like our Maya, are capable of understanding far more than we've been giving them credit for. Eleanor caught Maya's eye and gave her an encouraging smile. Maya straightened her shoulders and moved closer to her father. Vivian, Derek continued, I learned some very interesting things today. Like the fact that Maya has been recommended for inclusion classes for months, but somehow I never heard about those recommendations. Derek, I was protecting you from getting your hopes up unnecessarily. I also learned that Maya reads at a 4th grade level, has exceptional artistic abilities, and demonstrates emotional intelligence that surpasses many neurotypical children her age. Derek, you're being naive. Mrs. Patterson is paid to make parents feel good about their special needs children. It doesn't mean... I saw Maya's work, Vivian. Academic assignments, art projects, creative writing. This isn't about making anyone feel good. This is about recognizing what Maya is actually capable of achieving. Maya stepped forward. Vivian, why didn't you tell Daddy about Mrs. Patterson wanting to meet with him? The question, asked with Maya's characteristic honesty, cut through all of Vivian's careful justifications. Maya, sweetheart, adults make these decisions based on what's best for everyone involved. But Mrs. Patterson said the decisions should be about what's best for me. Derek looked at his daughter with new respect. Maya is absolutely right. These decisions should be about what's best for her, not what's convenient for the adults. Vivian's composure was beginning to crack. Derek, you're making a mistake. Maya isn't ready for the real world. She needs protection, structure, realistic expectations. What Maya needs, Elena said quietly, speaking for the first time since Vivian arrived, is people who believe in her potential instead of people who limit it. Vivian turned on Elena with fury. This is your fault. You've been filling Maya's head with impossible dreams and turning Derek against me. I've been teaching Maya skills that she was eager to learn and celebrating achievements that should have been celebrated months ago. You've been undermining my authority and confusing Maya about her place in this family. Derek felt something click into place. Her place in this family. Derek, Maya is a special needs child who requires careful management. Eleanor has been encouraging behaviors that aren't sustainable in the real world. What behaviors? Learning to read, creating beautiful art, asking questions about science, expectations that she can do anything a normal child can do. It's cruel to give her false hope. Maya's voice was small but clear. Daddy, am I not normal? Derek knelt down to Maya's level, taking her hands in his. Maya, you are perfect exactly as you are. Different isn't wrong. It's just different. And different can be extraordinary. Maya threw her arms around Derek's neck. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see how amazing you are. When Derek stood up, Vivian was staring at them with an expression he'd never seen before. Cold, calculating, and dangerous. Derek, if you continue down this path, you're going to destroy that child. And when Maya fails in the real world, when she's hurt and confused and comes home crying because she can't keep up with normal children, remember that I tried to protect her from this disappointment. The only disappointment here, Derek said quietly, is that it took me 2 years to realize that Maya's biggest obstacle wasn't her disability. It was the people who refused to see past it. Vivian's face went white, then red. Fine. Make your mistakes. But don't come to me when reality hits, and you realize that I was right about Maya's limitations. She turned and clicked out of the kitchen, leaving Derek, Eleanor, and Maya in a silence that felt both heavy and hopeful. Daddy, Maya said quietly, are you really going to let me try inclusion classes? Derek looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and saw intelligence, curiosity, and courage that had been hiding in plain sight. Maya, I'm going to let you try anything you want to try, and I'm going to be right there cheering you on. Eleanor wiped away a tear she hoped no one would notice, but Derek saw it, and in that moment, he realized that Eleanor had been the mother Maya needed, while he'd been too blind to see what was right in front of him. The battle lines were drawn, and Derek knew that Vivian wasn't going to accept this change without a fight. But as he watched Maya start cleaning up her science experiment with careful, intelligent precision, he also knew that he was finally ready to fight for his daughter's future. Whatever came next, Maya would know that her father believed in her. And sometimes, that's all a child needs to change the world. Vivian Sterling Coleman had built her entire identity around being indispensable. As Derek's wife, she managed his social calendar, his household, and most importantly, his guilt about Maya. For 2 years, she had positioned herself as the patient, understanding woman who had taken on the burden of a special needs stepdaughter. Derek's gratitude and dependence on her had been the foundation of their marriage. Now, watching Derek question her methods and worse, seeing Maya blossom under Elena's care, Vivian felt that foundation cracking beneath her feet. Something had to be done. The opportunity presented itself on a crisp October morning when Derek left early for a crucial business meeting in Birmingham. Vivian had been planning this moment for weeks, waiting for the perfect combination of circumstances. "Eleanor," Vivian called from the dining room, her voice artificially sweet. "Could you help me with something?" Eleanor, who had been teaching Maya to write letters to her teacher, looked up with immediate suspicion. In the month since Derek's meeting with Mrs. Patterson, Vivian had been coldly polite to Elena, but this sudden friendliness felt dangerous. "What do you need, Mrs. Coleman?" "I'm missing a piece of jewelry, my grandmother's gold bracelet. I thought perhaps you might have seen it while cleaning." Eleanor's stomach dropped. She recognized the setup immediately. She'd heard too many stories from other domestic workers about planted evidence and false accusations. "I haven't seen any jewelry, Mrs. Coleman. Where did you last have it?" "That's the problem. I can't remember. I've looked everywhere." Vivian's performance was Oscar-worthy. "Maya, sweetheart, have you seen grandmother's gold bracelet? The one with the little flowers?" Maya looked up from her writing practice, her face scrunched in concentration. "The shiny one? From your jewelry box?" "Yes, that's the one. When did you last see it?" Elena watched this exchange with growing dread. Maya was too honest, too trusting to recognize the trap being laid. "Yesterday," Maya said helpfully, "when you were getting dressed for lunch with the ladies." "Are you sure it was yesterday?" "Uh-huh. You put it on, then took it off because it didn't match your dress." Vivian's smile was predatory. "And where did I put it when I took it off?" Maya's brow furrowed. "I don't remember. Maybe on your dresser." "I already checked there, sweetheart." "Think carefully. Did you see anyone else near my jewelry box yesterday?" Elena felt ice in her veins as she realized how carefully Vivian had orchestrated this moment. Maya had been in Vivian's room yesterday afternoon, playing quietly while Elena changed the sheets. It would be easy to suggest that Elena had accessed the jewelry box during that time. "Elena was cleaning in there," Maya said innocently, "but she didn't touch your pretty things." "She never does." "I'm sure Elena didn't mean to touch anything," Vivian said with false understanding. "But accidents happen. Maybe it just got mixed up with the cleaning supplies." Elena stepped forward. "Mrs. Coleman, I have never touched your jewelry. I clean around it very carefully, but I never handle it. Of course not intentionally, but these things happen. Maya, why don't you go check the cleaning supply closet? Maybe the bracelet somehow ended up in there." Maya, eager to help solve the mystery, bounced off toward the utility room. Eleanor started to follow her, but Vivian's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. "Eleanor, I want you to know that I understand these situations can be complicated. Sometimes people in your position feel entitled to take small things. I'm prepared to be understanding if you just tell me where the bracelet is." Elena jerked her arm away. "I didn't take your bracelet. Mrs. Coleman, I found it." Maya's voice carried from the utility room. Vivian's eyes glittered with triumph. "Did you? Where was it, sweetheart?" Maya appeared in the doorway, holding the gold bracelet with obvious confusion. "It was in the cleaning bucket, but that's weird because I saw you put it somewhere else." "Where did you see me put it, Maya?" Elena asked, her heart pounding. Maya's face scrunched up in thought. "On the little table by your bed." "I remember because it made a pretty sound when you put it down." Vivian's mask slipped for just a second, revealing cold calculation beneath the concerned wife act. "Maya, sweetheart, you must be confused. Memory can be tricky sometimes." But Maya shook her head firmly. "No, I remember. You put it on the little table, then you picked it up again and went to the closet where Elena keeps the cleaning things." Elena felt a surge of hope. Maya's eidetic memory, The same trait that made her such a talented artist meant she could recall visual details with perfect accuracy. "Maya," Eleanor said gently, "what did Vivian do in the cleaning closet?" "She put the bracelet in the bucket with the rags, but then she told me it was our secret because you would feel bad if you knew you'd lost it there." The silence that followed was deafening. Vivian's face had gone through several color changes, settling on a shade of red that spoke of rage barely held in check. "Maya," Vivian said in a voice like winter, "you're confused. That's not what happened." But Maya's expression was clear and certain. "Yes, it is. I remember exactly. You put the bracelet in the bucket and said it would be our secret." Eleanor looked at Vivian with a mixture of disgust and pity. "Did you really think an 8-year-old wouldn't remember watching you plant evidence?" "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating it directly. You planted that bracelet in the cleaning supplies to frame me for theft." Maya's eyes went wide as she began to understand what she'd witnessed. "Vivian, why did you put your bracelet where it would get Elena in trouble?" Vivian looked from Maya's confused face to Elena's determined one, and Elena could see her calculating whether she could still salvage this situation. "Maya is obviously confused about what she saw." "Maya remembers everything," Eleanor interrupted. "Every detail, every color, every sound. It's part of her gift. You know that, which is probably why you tried to make it our secret, hoping she wouldn't tell anyone else. You can't possibly believe the testimony of a mentally disabled child over—" "I believe Maya because Maya doesn't lie." Elena's voice was steel. "Unlike some people in this house." Maya stepped closer to Elena, still holding the bracelet, but looking confused and hurt. "Vivian, did you try to get Elena in trouble on purpose?" Vivian knelt down to Maya's level, and Elena saw her shift tactics with manipulative precision. "Maya, sweetheart. Sometimes adults have to do complicated things to protect families. Elena has been causing problems, making Daddy upset, making you think you can do things that might hurt you. Sometimes we have to find ways to help people make better choices." Elena felt sick watching Vivian try to manipulate Maya into accepting her deception. "But Elena teaches me good things," Maya said, her voice small but clear. "She helps me learn and makes me feel smart." "Maya, Elena isn't qualified to teach you. She's filling your head with ideas that will only hurt you when you realize you can't really do the things she's promised you can do." Elena knelt down on Maya's other side. "Maya, do you remember what we talked about regarding truth and lies?" Maya nodded. "Truth is when you say what really happened. Lies are when you say something different from what really happened." "Right. And what really happened with the bracelet?" Maya looked back and forth between the two adults, clearly distressed by the conflict but certain of what she'd witnessed. "Vivian put the bracelet in the cleaning bucket and said it was our secret so Eleanor wouldn't feel bad. But that was a lie, wasn't it? She wanted Elena to get in trouble." Elena's heart ached for this little girl who was being forced to navigate adult deception and manipulation. "Maya, you're right. That was a lie. And lies are wrong, even when adults tell them." Vivian stood up abruptly, her composure finally cracking completely. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Derek," she called out, apparently forgetting that Derek wasn't there. "Eleanor is turning Maya against me, teaching her to question authority, filling her head with what?" Eleanor stood up to face Vivian directly. "With the truth? With the idea that she deserves honesty and respect." "Eleanor," Vivian's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, "you have no idea what you're dealing with. This family has complexities that someone like you couldn't possibly understand. Someone like me, someone who doesn't understand the difference between temporary employment and permanent family." Elena felt the insult land, but she also saw something else in Vivian's desperation. Fear. Fear that her carefully constructed narrative was unraveling, that her position in this family was threatened. "You're right," Elena said quietly. "I am temporary employment. But Maya is permanent family, and she deserves better than being lied to and manipulated by the people who are supposed to protect her." Maya stepped between them, still holding the bracelet, her face serious beyond her years. "Vivian," she said, with the devastating honesty that only children possess, "why don't you love me?" The question hit the room like a bomb. Vivian's face went white, then red, then white again. "Maya, of course I love you. I married your father, I take care of you." "No," Maya said with quiet certainty. "Eleanor loves me. I can feel the difference. You just take care of me. Like you would take care of a pet or something. Eleanor watched Vivian struggle to find an answer to Maya's simple but profound observation. How do you explain to a child that you see them as an obligation rather than a gift? Maya, love is complicated for adults, not for Elena. Elena's love isn't complicated. It's just warm. The front door opened and Derek's voice carried into the house. I'm back. How are my girls? Elena saw Vivian's eyes narrow with calculation. The failed setup with the bracelet hadn't eliminated Elena, but there were other ways to achieve her goal. Derek, Vivian called out, her voice once again artificially sweet. We're in the dining room. We need to talk. As Derek's footsteps approached, Elena realized that this had been just the opening move in Vivian's game. The real battle was about to begin, and Maya was caught in the middle of it. But watching Maya straighten her shoulders and hold the bracelet like evidence of the truth, Elena also realized that this little girl was stronger and more perceptive than anyone had given her credit for. The war for Maya's future was escalating, but Elena was no longer fighting alone. Maya was finally old enough, confident enough, and trusted enough to tell her own truth. And sometimes the truth told by a child is the most powerful weapon of all. Derek entered the dining room to find an unmistakable tension crackling in the air. Maya stood between Elena and Vivian, clutching what appeared to be Vivian's gold bracelet, her face serious and troubled. Elena looked like she was bracing for a storm, while Vivian's smile was so forced it looked painful. What's going on here? Derek asked, his business instincts immediately sensing conflict. Derek, thank goodness you're back, Vivian began, her voice trembling with what sounded like distress. We've had a very upsetting situation. Derek's eyes moved between his wife and Elena. What kind of situation? My grandmother's bracelet went missing this morning. We found it in the cleaning supplies and... Daddy, Maya interrupted, her voice clear and strong. Vivian is lying. The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Derek's eyebrows shot up, and Vivian's face went pale. Maya, Vivian said quickly. You're confused, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about? I'm not confused. Maya stepped forward, holding up the bracelet. I saw Vivian put this in Elena's cleaning bucket. She told me it was our secret so Elena wouldn't feel bad about losing it, but she was really trying to get Elena in trouble. Derek looked at his daughter with amazement. Maya's speech was clear, her explanation logical, and her certainty absolute. Maya, Derek said gently, kneeling down to her level, are you sure about what you saw? I remember everything, Daddy. Vivian put the bracelet on her little table first, then she picked it up and went to the closet where Elena keeps the cleaning things. She put it in the bucket with the rags and told me not to tell anyone because it was our secret. Derek stood slowly, looking at Vivian with new eyes. Is this true? Derek, you can't seriously believe... Is it true, Vivian? Vivian's composure cracked slightly. Derek, Maya is confused. Her condition affects her memory and perception. You know that. Actually, Eleanor spoke for the first time, her voice steady. Maya has an eidetic memory for visual details. It's part of her cognitive profile. She remembers everything she sees with perfect accuracy. Derek looked at Elena with surprise. Eidetic memory. It's one of the reasons she's such a talented artist. She can recreate scenes in perfect detail because she remembers exactly how they looked. Maya nodded enthusiastically. Like how I remember all the flowers in the garden in different seasons, or how I can draw our house exactly right, or how I know what everyone was wearing yesterday. To prove her point, Maya began describing Derek's outfit from the previous day, down to the specific tie he'd worn and the fact that he'd spilled coffee on his sleeve at breakfast. Derek stared at his daughter in wonder. Maya, that's incredible. Mrs. Patterson says it's one of my special gifts, Maya said proudly. She says my brain works differently, but different can be better sometimes. Derek turned back to Vivian, who was looking increasingly cornered. Vivian, given what I now know about Maya's memory abilities, I'm going to ask you again, did you plant that bracelet in Elena's cleaning supplies? Vivian's eyes darted between Derek, Elena, and Maya. Eleanor could see her calculating whether she could still manipulate her way out of this situation. Derek, even if Maya's memory is accurate, there might be a reasonable explanation. The reasonable explanation, Derek said quietly, is that you tried to frame Elena for theft. Derek, you don't understand the pressure I've been under. Elena has been undermining my authority with Maya. teaching her things without permission, making decisions about her education. Decisions about her education are my job as her father. And from what I've seen, Elena's teaching has been nothing but beneficial. Vivian's mask finally slipped completely. Derek, you're being naive. Elena is just the help. She's been filling Maya's head with unrealistic expectations, making her think she can do things that are beyond her capabilities. Like read, like create beautiful art, like think for herself, like believe she belongs in regular classrooms with normal children. The words hung in the air like poison. Derek looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw something he'd been blind to for 2 years. "Vivian," Derek said slowly, "do you love my daughter?" The question seemed to catch Vivian off guard. "Of course I love her. I married you, didn't I? I took on the responsibility of caring for her." "That's not what I asked. Do you love Maya?" Vivian struggled with an answer, and in that struggle Derek saw everything he needed to know. "Maya isn't a responsibility, Vivian. She's my daughter. She's a remarkable, intelligent, loving little girl who deserves to be cherished, not managed." "Derek, you're being emotional. Maya has limitations that no amount of wishful thinking will overcome. The only limitations Maya has are the ones that people like you place on her." Elena watched this confrontation with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Derek was finally seeing the truth, but she also knew that cornered animals were dangerous. "Maya," Derek said, turning to his daughter, "why don't you go upstairs and pack some of your favorite things? We might be taking a little trip." Maya's eyes lit up. "A trip? Where are we going?" "I'm not sure yet, sweetheart, but I think we need some time to figure things out." As Maya headed upstairs, chattering excitedly about what she wanted to pack, Derek turned back to Vivian. "Vivian, I want you to leave." "Derek, you're making a mistake. The mistake was trusting you with Maya's welfare for 2 years while I was too busy to pay attention." Vivian's voice turned sharp. "Derek, if you kick me out, you'll be alone with a special needs child and a housekeeper who isn't qualified to care for her. Is that really what you want?" "What I want is for my daughter to be loved and valued by the people in her life. Since you're apparently incapable of that, yes, I want you to leave." Vivian played her final card. "Derek, be realistic. Maya will always need specialized care. What woman is going to want to take on that responsibility? Elena won't always be here. What happens when you're alone with a child who will never be independent, never be normal?" Elena saw Derek flinch slightly at Vivian's words, and she realized this had been Vivian's hold over him all along. His fear that Maya would limit his future relationships, his guilt about his daughter's disability. "Derek," Elena said quietly, "may I say something?" Derek nodded. "Maya will need support as she grows up, just like any child. But she's already shown that with the right encouragement, she can achieve things that nobody thought possible. Her future is bright, not because someone is willing to take on the responsibility of caring for her, but because she's a remarkable person who deserves to reach her full potential." Eleanor paused, then continued with conviction she felt in her bones. "Any person who can't see Maya's value, who sees her as a burden rather than a blessing, doesn't deserve to be part of her life." Derek looked at Elena with new appreciation. "You really believe that? I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Vivian laughed bitterly. "Eleanor, you've been here for what, 6 weeks? Wait until the novelty wears off. Wait until you realize that Maya will always need help, will always be different, will always require more patience and understanding than a normal child." "You're right," Elena said calmly. "Maya will always be different. She'll always see the world in her own unique way, always remember details that others miss, always love with a purity that's rare in this world. And any person who sees those differences as drawbacks instead of gifts is missing out on knowing one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met." Derek felt something click into place in his chest. "Elena, are you saying you'd want to stay? To help me raise Maya?" Eleanor met his eyes directly. "I'm saying that Maya has changed my life. She's reminded me what unconditional love looks like, what courage and resilience really mean. I can't imagine my life without her in it." Vivian looked between Derek and Elena with growing horror. "Derek, you can't seriously be considering—" "I'm considering putting my daughter's welfare first for the first time in 2 years, Derek said firmly. "Vivian, I want you packed and out of this house by tomorrow." "And if I refuse?" Derek's voice was steel. "Then I'll have you removed. The house is in my name, as are all the accounts." I'll provide you with reasonable support to get back on your feet, but your time in Maya's life is over." Vivian's face cycled through several emotions before settling on cold fury. "Derek, this is a mistake you'll regret. When reality hits, when you realize what you've taken on, don't come crawling back to me." "The only thing I regret," Derek said quietly, "is not seeing what was happening to my daughter sooner." Vivian turned and clicked toward the stairs, her designer heels echoing like gunshots on the marble floor. Derek looked at Elena with wonder and gratitude. "Elena, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just keep believing in Maya the way you did today." From upstairs they could hear Maya's voice singing a happy song as she packed her treasures. The sound was pure joy, untainted by fear or sadness. "Elena," Derek said carefully, "when I asked if you'd want to stay and help me raise Maya, I meant it. Not as an employee, but as family." Elena felt her heart skip. "Derek, I know it's complicated. I know I'm asking a lot, but Maya loves you, and I think I could love you too, if you'd give us a chance." Elena looked toward the stairs where Maya's singing continued, bright and hopeful. She thought of her brother Jake, of all the dreams she'd put on hold, of the family she'd always wanted, but never thought she'd have. "Derek," she said softly, "I think I already do love you. Both of you." As if summoned by their words, Maya appeared at the top of the stairs, her small suitcase in hand, and a huge smile on her face. "Are we ready for our adventure?" she called down. Derek looked at Elena, then up at his daughter. "Yes, sweetheart, we're ready for our adventure." But even as hope bloomed in Derek's chest, even as Elena felt the pieces of her life clicking into place, none of them could have predicted the storm that Vivian was already planning to unleash. Some battles, they would soon learn, don't end with truth. Sometimes they only escalate into war. The next morning dawned grey and stormy, matching the tension that had settled over the Coleman house like a heavy blanket. Vivian moved through the halls with mechanical precision, packing her designer clothes and expensive jewelry, while maintaining an ominous silence that made everyone nervous. Elena found Maya sitting on her bedroom floor, drawing what appeared to be a family portrait, but this time there were only 3 figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Elena said, settling down beside her. "Tell me about your picture." "It's our new family," Maya said matter-of-factly. "Daddy, you and me, see how we're all smiling? That's because we don't have to be scared anymore." Elena's heart clenched at the casual way Maya referenced being scared, as if fear had been such a normal part of her life that its absence was noteworthy. "Were you scared a lot before, Maya?" Maya nodded, not looking up from her drawing. "Every day. I was scared of making Vivian angry, scared of being too loud, scared of eating the wrong food or wearing the wrong clothes. But now I'm not scared anymore because you and Daddy love me no matter what." "That's right, baby. We love you exactly as you are." From downstairs came the sound of suitcases being wheeled across marble floors. Maya looked toward her door with concern. "Is Vivian really leaving forever? What do you think about that?" Maya considered the question with her characteristic seriousness. "I feel sad because I wanted her to love me, but I also feel happy because maybe now I can be myself without worrying about disappointing her." Elena was constantly amazed by Maya's emotional intelligence, her ability to hold complex, contradictory feelings without being overwhelmed by them. "It's okay to feel sad and happy at the same time," Elena assured her. "That means you have a big, kind heart." Derek appeared in the doorway, looking tired but determined. "How are my girls doing?" "We're drawing our new family," Maya announced, holding up her picture. Derek studied the artwork with wonder. "Maya, this is incredible. Look at the detail in our faces. You even got Elena's dimple when she smiles." "Elena has the prettiest smile," Maya said confidently. "It makes her whole face light up." Derek met Elena's eyes over Maya's head, and the look they shared was full of hope and new beginnings. "Daddy," Maya said, "when Vivian leaves, are you going to be sad?" Derek sat down on the floor with them, considering his daughter's question. "I think I'm going to be relieved, sweetheart. I married Vivian because I thought she would be good for our family, but I was wrong about what our family needed." "What does our family need?" "Love. Understanding. People who see how amazing you are instead of focusing on what makes you different." Maya beamed. "Elena sees how amazing I am. She says I'm extraordinary." Elena is absolutely right. From downstairs came Vivian's voice, sharp and commanding. "Derek, I need to speak with you before I leave." Derek sighed. "I'll be right back." "You two keep working on that beautiful picture." Derek found Vivian in the foyer, surrounded by expensive luggage, looking like she was posing for a dramatic exit scene. "Derek," she began, her voice carrying a warning tone, "I want you to know that I've made some phone calls this morning." "What kind of phone calls?" Vivian's smile was cold and calculated. "I've contacted the Department of Family and Children Services. I've expressed some concerns about Maya's welfare." Derek felt ice form in his stomach. "What concerns?" "Concerns about a single father leaving a special needs child in the care of an unqualified housekeeper. Concerns about educational decisions being made by domestic help. Concerns about the safety and stability of Maya's home environment." "Vivian, Maya is perfectly safe." "Is she?" "A father who works 60-hour weeks, a housekeeper with no special education training, a child with Down syndrome being encouraged to believe she can do things beyond her capabilities." The DFCS takes these situations very seriously. Derek realized that Vivian's final move wasn't emotional manipulation, it was legal warfare. "You called the state on my family?" "I called them on a concerning situation. Derek, it's not too late to reconsider. Send Elena away, let me come back, and I'll make another call explaining that the situation has been resolved." Derek looked at this woman he'd married, this person he'd trusted with his daughter's welfare, and felt something cold and final settle in his chest. "Get out of my house, Vivian." "Derek, you don't understand what you're up against. DFCS investigations can drag on for months. They can remove Maya from your home while they conduct their assessment. Is your pride really worth that risk?" Derek felt a moment of panic. Could they really take Maya away? Could his decision to protect his daughter result in losing her entirely? "Derek," Maya's voice carried down from upstairs, "come see what Eleanor taught me to write." The sound of his daughter's happy, confident voice reminded Derek of everything that was at stake. Maya wasn't the limited, difficult child Vivian had portrayed. She was remarkable, and she deserved a home where that remarkableness was celebrated. "Vivian, if DFCS wants to investigate our home, they're welcome to do so. They'll find a father who loves his daughter, a caregiver who believes in her potential, and a little girl who's flourishing for the first time in years." Vivian's eyes flashed with anger. "Derek, you're making the biggest mistake of your life." "No," Derek said quietly. "The biggest mistake of my life was trusting you with Maya's happiness." Vivian picked up her purse and walked toward the door, then turned back for one final shot. "When this all falls apart, Derek, when Elena realizes what she's actually signed up for, when Maya fails in the real world, when you're alone and struggling, remember that I offered you a way back." The door slammed behind her with finality that echoed through the marble foyer. Derek stood alone in the sudden silence, feeling the weight of Vivian's threats settling on his shoulders. DFCS, an investigation, the possibility of losing Maya. "Daddy?" Maya appeared at the top of the stairs holding Eleanor's hand. "Is everything okay?" Derek looked up at his daughter, her bright eyes, her trusting smile, her small hand confidently gripping Eleanor's, and felt his resolve strengthen. "Everything is perfect, sweetheart. Come show me what you learned to write." That afternoon, while Maya napped, Derek and Elena sat in the kitchen discussing the implications of Vivian's threat. "Derek, maybe I should step back," Elena said quietly. "If my presence is giving them ammunition—" "Elena, no. Maya needs you. I need you. We're not letting Vivian's vindictiveness break up our family. But if they take Maya away, they won't. Maya is healthy, happy, loved, and thriving. Any social worker who spends 5 minutes with her will see that." Eleanor wasn't convinced. "Derek, I'm just a housekeeper. I don't have any legal standing with Maya. If they decide I'm unqualified—" Derek looked at Eleanor with sudden clarity. "Then we need to change that." "What do you mean?" Derek took Elena's hands in his. "Elena, I meant what I said yesterday. I love you. Maya loves you. You're already part of our family in every way that matters. Derek, marry me." The words hung in the air between them. Eleanor stared at Derek with wide eyes. "Derek, we've only known each other for 2 months. I've known you long enough to see how you love my daughter. I've known you long enough to see your character, your strength, your kindness. I've known you long enough to know that you're the person I want to build a life with. Elena felt tears pricking her eyes. But what if people say we're only doing it for legal reasons? Are we only doing it for legal reasons? Elena thought about waking up every morning excited to see Maya's face, about the way Derek looked at her like she was precious, about the feeling of belonging she'd found in this house despite all the drama. "No," she whispered. "I love you both so much it scares me." Derek pulled her into his arms. "Then say yes. Marry me, Elena. Be Maya's mother legally and officially. Help me give her the family she deserves." "Daddy, Elena?" Maya appeared in the kitchen doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Why are you hugging?" Derek and Elena looked at each other, then at Maya. "Maya," Derek said carefully, "how would you feel if Elena became your mom? Not just someone who takes care of you, but your real mom." Maya's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Elena could be my mom?" "If she says yes," Derek said, looking at Elena hopefully. Maya ran to Elena and threw her arms around her waist. "Please say yes, please be my mom." Elena looked down at this remarkable little girl who had changed her entire world, then at Derek, who was offering her everything she'd ever dreamed of. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll be Maya's mom." Maya started jumping up and down with excitement. "I'm getting a mom. I'm getting a real mom who loves me." As Derek and Elena held each other, with Maya dancing around them in pure joy, they felt like they could handle anything Vivian threw at them. But they had no idea how far a desperate woman would go to destroy what she couldn't control. The real battle was just beginning, and it would test every bond they were building, every dream they dared to dream. The knock on the door came exactly 1 week after Vivian's departure, on a Tuesday morning when Maya was at school and Derek was working from home. Eleanor answered the door to find a stern-faced woman in a conservative suit holding an official-looking clipboard. "Ms. Hayes, I'm Sarah Chen from the Department of Family and Children's Services. I'm here to conduct a welfare check on Maya Coleman." Eleanor's stomach dropped, but she maintained her composure. "Of course. Please come in. Mr. Coleman is in his office. I'll get him for you." Sarah Chen stepped into the marble foyer, her practiced eyes immediately scanning the environment. Eleanor noticed her taking in the expensive furnishings, the pristine cleanliness, the family photos that now prominently featured Maya's smiling face. Derek appeared within minutes, his business demeanor intact, but his eyes wary. "Ms. Chen? Derek Coleman. I understand you're here about Maya." "Mr. Coleman, we received a report expressing concerns about your daughter's care and living situation. I'm required to investigate any allegations involving the welfare of special needs children." "What specific allegations?" Derek asked, though he already knew the answer. Ms. Chen consulted her clipboard. "The report suggests that Maya is being left in the care of unqualified personnel for extended periods, that educational decisions are being made without proper oversight, and that there may be neglect of her special medical and developmental needs." Elena felt her face flush with anger. Every word of Vivian's report was designed to paint their loving home as a dangerous environment for Maya. "I can assure you," Derek said firmly, "that Maya receives excellent care in this home. I'm sure you believe that, Mr. Coleman. However, I need to see for myself. May I tour the house and speak with Ms. Hayes about her qualifications and daily routine with Maya?" For the next hour, Elena led Ms. Chen through every room of the house, answering detailed questions about Maya's schedule, diet, educational activities, and medical care. The social worker took notes constantly, her expression giving nothing away. "Ms. Hayes," Ms. Chen said as they stood in Maya's bedroom, "what is your background in special education or childhood development?" Eleanor's heart sank. "I don't have formal training in special education, but I do have experience. My younger brother had Down syndrome. I helped care for him from the time I was 12 until he passed away at 19. "I see. And what educational activities do you engage in with Maya?" Eleanor walked to Maya's desk, which was covered with art supplies, books, and learning materials. "Maya is naturally curious and eager to learn. We work on reading, math, art, science experiments, whatever captures her interest." Ms. Chen picked up one of Maya's recent drawings, a detailed watercolor of the backyard garden. "This is quite advanced for a child with Down syndrome." "Maya is quite advanced. She has an eidetic memory and exceptional artistic abilities. According to our records, Maya attends the Ark of Georgia for special education services." Are you making decisions about her educational placement? Mr. Coleman makes all educational decisions after consulting with Maya's teachers. I simply support and reinforce her learning at home. Ms. Chen made more notes. The report suggests that Maya is being encouraged to pursue unrealistic goals, that she's being set up for failure by being pushed beyond her capabilities. Eleanor felt anger building in her chest. Maya is being encouraged to reach her full potential. She's thriving academically, socially, and emotionally. Ms. Hayes, children with Down syndrome often hit developmental plateaus. What happens when Maya can no longer keep up with the demands being placed on her? Then we'll adjust our approach to meet her needs, but we won't limit her potential based on assumptions about what she can't do. When Derek joined them in Maya's room, Ms. Chen turned her attention to him. Mr. Coleman, how many hours per week do you work? Typically 50 to 60 hours, but I'm transitioning to working from home more often to spend additional time with Maya. And during your work hours, Maya is supervised by Ms. Hayes. Yes, Elena is wonderful with Maya. They have a close, loving relationship. Mr. Coleman, are you aware that Ms. Hayes lacks formal training in special education? Are you comfortable leaving a special needs child in the care of someone without appropriate credentials? Derek straightened. Ms. Chen, Elena has shown more understanding of Maya's needs and abilities than anyone else who's been involved in her care. Credentials are important, but so is genuine care and the ability to see Maya as a whole person, rather than just a diagnosis. Ms. Chen made notes, then looked up with a serious expression. Mr. Coleman, I understand you recently ended your marriage to Maya's stepmother, who had been her primary caregiver for 2 years. Vivian was never Maya's primary caregiver. I've recently realized that she was actually limiting Maya's development through unrealistic limitations and negative expectations. And you plan to marry Ms. Hayes. Derek felt heat rise in his face at the implication. Elena and I plan to marry because we love each other and want to build a family together, not because it's convenient for childcare. I see. When is this wedding planned? As soon as possible. We want to make our family official. Ms. Chen closed her notebook. Mr. Coleman, I'll need to interview Maya privately when she returns from school. I'll also be speaking with her teachers and reviewing her medical records. Of course, Maya will be home around 3:30. After Ms. Chen left to interview Maya's teachers, Derek and Elena sat in the kitchen, both feeling like they'd been through an interrogation. Elena, I'm so sorry. I never thought Vivian would go this far. Derek, what if they decide I'm not qualified? What if they think our engagement is just a legal maneuver? Derek took her hands. Then we prove them wrong. We show them how happy and healthy Maya is, how much she's grown, how loved she feels. When Maya came home from school that afternoon, she was excited to share her day with Elena and Derek. Her backpack was full of artwork and a note from Mrs. Patterson praising her progress in reading. Maya, Derek said gently, there's a lady here who wants to talk to you about school and home. Her name is Miss Chen. Maya's face immediately clouded with worry. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart. She just wants to make sure you're happy and healthy. Ms. Chen's interview with Maya was conducted in the living room, while Derek and Elena waited anxiously in the kitchen. They could hear Maya's clear, confident voice answering questions, but couldn't make out the specific words. After what felt like hours, Ms. Chen emerged with Maya, both of them smiling. Thank you for talking with me, Maya. You're a very smart and articulate young lady. Maya beamed with pride. Eleanor says I'm extraordinary. I can see that, Ms. Chen said, glancing at Elena with what might have been approval. After Ms. Chen left, Maya immediately ran to Elena and Derek. She asked me lots of questions about whether I'm happy, and if anyone ever hurts me and if I feel safe. I told her you make me feel very safe and very loved. What else did she ask about? Derek inquired. She wanted to know about my learning activities, and if I like living here, and if Elena is nice to me. I told her Elena is the best teacher and the nicest person, and that I want her to be my mom forever and ever. Elena hugged Maya tightly, hoping that the little girl's honest testimony would be enough to satisfy the state's concerns. That evening, Derek received a call from their lawyer, Dr. Thompson, whom he'd contacted earlier in the day. Derek, I've reviewed the DFCS complaint. It's serious, but not insurmountable. The key is documenting Maya's well-being and the quality of care she receives. What do we need to do? First, We need character references from Maya's teachers, doctors, and anyone else who interacts with her regularly. Second, we need to document Eleanor's qualifications and experience, even if they're not formal credentials. Third, we should consider expediting your marriage to Eleanor to establish her legal relationship with Maya. Derek felt a mix of relief and urgency. How quickly can we arrange a marriage? In Georgia, there's no waiting period for marriage licenses. You could be married within a week if you wanted to. After Derek relayed this information to Elena, they sat down with Maya to discuss the timeline. Maya, would you like Elena to become your mom really soon, like maybe this weekend? Maya's eyes went wide with excitement. This weekend? Really? Really? We'll have a small ceremony at the courthouse, just the three of us. Maya threw her arms around both of them. This is the best news ever. I'm going to have a real mom. As they started planning for their wedding, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. Vivian's attack had put their new family under a microscope, and every decision they made would be scrutinized by the state. But watching Maya's pure joy as she talked about finally having a mom, Eleanor knew they were fighting for something worth any risk. The investigation would continue, but they would face it as a united family, legally, emotionally, and in every way that mattered. Love, Eleanor was learning, was the most powerful credential of all. On Friday morning, Derek Coleman stood in the courthouse in downtown Atlanta, holding Maya's hand, while Eleanor smoothed her simple blue dress. They'd chosen to wear their best clothes. Derek in his charcoal suit, Elena in a dress the color of Maya's eyes, and Maya in a white sundress with a hand-painted butterfly that Elena had helped her create. "Are you nervous, Daddy?" Maya asked, swinging their joined hands. "A little bit," Derek admitted. "Good nervous, though. The kind of nervous you get when something wonderful is about to happen." Maya looked up at Elena, who was checking her reflection in the courthouse windows. "Eleanor, are you nervous too?" "Very nervous," Elena laughed, "but also very happy." Dr. Thompson, their lawyer, approached with the marriage license and a warm smile. "All the paperwork is in order. Judge Martinez is ready for you whenever you are." As they walked through the courthouse halls, Maya chattering excitedly about how she was going to be the flower girl and the witness and the most important person at the wedding, Derek felt a sense of rightness settle over him. This wasn't just a legal maneuver to protect their family from Vivian's vindictiveness. This was the formalization of bonds that had been growing stronger every day. Judge Martinez was a kind-faced woman in her 50s who immediately warmed to Maya's enthusiasm. "So you're the young lady who's gaining a new mother today?" Judge Martinez asked Maya. "Yes, Elena is going to be my official mom. She already loves me like a mom, but now it will be legal." The judge smiled at Maya's matter-of-fact explanation. "That sounds wonderful. Are you ready to help them get married?" "I've been ready forever." The ceremony was simple but profound. Derek and Elena stood facing each other holding hands, while Maya stood between them holding their rings on a small pillow. "Derek Coleman," Judge Martinez began, "do you take Elena Hayes to be your wife, to love and cherish, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live?" Derek looked into Elena's eyes, seeing the reflection of their shared commitment to Maya and to each other. "I do." "Elena Hayes, do you take Derek Coleman to be your husband, to love and cherish in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live?" Elena thought of the journey that had brought her to this moment, from a job interview to falling in love with a remarkable little girl to finding her own heart's desire. "I do." "And Maya," Judge Martinez said, kneeling down to the little girl's level, "do you promise to love and support your new family?" Maya's face was serious as she considered this responsibility. "I promise to love Daddy and Elena forever and ever, and to help our family be the best family in the whole world." There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. When Judge Martinez pronounced them husband and wife, Maya cheered and threw flower petals she'd hidden in her pocket. Derek kissed Elena with all the promise of their future, while Maya hugged them both around their legs. "Now we're a real family," Maya announced to everyone within hearing distance. After the ceremony, they went to Maya's favorite restaurant, a family diner that served pancakes shaped like cartoon characters. Maya insisted on telling every server, customer, and stranger who would listen that Elena was now officially her mom. "This is my new mom," Maya would say proudly. She married my daddy today, which means she can never leave me because it's legal now. Eleanor's heart swelled every time Maya introduced her as my mom. She'd dreamed of being a mother since she was young, and while this wasn't the path she'd imagined, it was more perfect than anything she could have planned. That evening, as they settled into their first night as a married family, Derek and Eleanor tucked Maya into bed together for the first time as husband and wife. "Mom," Maya said, testing out the word, "will you read me a story?" Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes at being called Mom for the first time. "I would love to read you a story." As Eleanor read, Derek watched his wife and daughter with wonder. Maya had found her voice, her confidence, her joy. Eleanor had found the family she'd always wanted, and Derek had found something he hadn't even known he was missing, a partner who loved his daughter as fiercely as he did. When Maya fell asleep, Derek and Elena retreated to their bedroom, now officially their shared space. "Elena Coleman," Derek said, trying out her new name. "How does that sound?" "Perfect," Elena smiled. "Absolutely perfect." They were interrupted by Derek's phone ringing. Dr. Thompson's name appeared on the screen. "I hope I'm not calling too late," the lawyer said when Derek answered. "I wanted to update you on the DFCS situation." Derek put the phone on speaker so Elena could hear. Ms. Chen completed her interviews with Maya's teachers today. The reports are overwhelmingly positive. They describe Maya as happy, well-adjusted, academically thriving, and clearly loved. Elena felt relief wash over her. "However," Dr. Thompson continued, "the investigation is still ongoing. Ms. Chen wants to conduct a follow-up home visit now that you're married, and she's requested documentation of Elena's new legal status as Maya's stepmother." "What kind of documentation?" Derek asked. "Marriage certificate, obviously. But also Elena should consider filing for formal adoption of Maya. As a step-parent, she has limited legal rights. Full adoption would give her equal parental authority and protect Maya if anything ever happened to you." Eleanor and Derek looked at each other with surprise. Neither had considered adoption. "Is that something Maya would want?" Eleanor asked quietly. "I think," Derek said slowly, "that Maya would be thrilled to have you legally be her mom in every possible way." Thompson continued, "The adoption process is relatively straightforward in cases where the biological parent is deceased and the step-parent has been actively involved in the child's care. Given Maya's age and the circumstances, the court would likely require her consent, but that doesn't seem like it would be an issue." After they hung up, Derek and Elena sat in comfortable silence, processing this new possibility. "Elena," Derek said finally, "you don't have to adopt Maya just because it would help legally. That's a huge commitment, and—" "Derek," Elena interrupted softly, "I've loved Maya as my own daughter since the day I met her. Making that legal wouldn't change how I feel. It would just make official what's already true in my heart." Derek pulled Elena into his arms. "Have I mentioned lately that I love you?" "Not in the last 5 minutes," Elena smiled. "I love you, Elena Coleman, and I love watching you love my daughter." "Our daughter," Elena corrected gently. "Our daughter," Derek agreed, and the word "our" felt like coming home. The next morning, Maya woke up early and padded into Derek and Elena's bedroom, climbing into bed between them. "Good morning, Mom and Dad," she said happily, snuggling between them. Eleanor's heart skipped at being called Mom so naturally, as if Maya had been waiting her whole life to say that word. "Good morning, sweetheart," Elena murmured, kissing the top of Maya's head. "Maya," Derek said carefully, "Mom and I wanted to ask you about something important." Maya sat up, immediately alert. "What kind of important?" "Well, you know how Mom is my wife now, which makes her your stepmom legally." Maya nodded. "There's something called adoption, where Mom could become your mom in every legal way possible. It would mean that on all your official papers, birth certificates, school records, everything, Elena would be listed as your mother." Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? Elena could be my real mom on my birth certificate?" "Really," Elena said softly, "but only if that's what you want." Maya threw her arms around Elena's neck. "Yes, yes, 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 I want you to be my real mom everywhere." Elena held Maya close, feeling overwhelmed by the simple, pure love of this extraordinary child. "Then we'll start the paperwork this week," Derek promised. That afternoon brought another visit from Ms. Chen, this time for the post-marriage assessment. She arrived to find Maya in the backyard, teaching Elena how to identify different types of butterflies, while Derek grilled hamburgers for lunch. "Miss Chen," Maya called out happily, "come see what I'm teaching Mom about butterflies." Miss Chen's eyebrows rose slightly at Maya's casual use of Mom to refer to Elena. "Maya, when did you start calling Ms. Hayes Mom?" "Yesterday, after Daddy and Mom got married. She's my mom now, so that's what I call her." Ms. Chen made notes while observing the family dynamic. Elena noticed that the social worker seemed to be looking for signs of dysfunction or instability, but what she found instead was a child who was confident, articulate, and clearly adored by both parents. During lunch, Ms. Chen asked Maya about her daily routine, her school experience, and her feelings about the recent changes in her family. "Maya, how do you feel about your father getting remarried so quickly?" Maya considered this seriously. "I think Daddy should have married Elena a long time ago. She makes him smile more, and she makes me feel smart and special." "And how do you feel about Elena becoming your stepmother?" "She's not just my stepmother," Maya corrected matter-of-factly. "She's going to adopt me so she can be my real mother everywhere. That way, if anyone ever tries to take me away from my family, Mom will have the legal right to keep me." Ms. Chen's pen paused over her notepad. "Maya, do you worry about being taken away from your family?" Maya's expression grew serious. "Vivian said that if I didn't behave better, Daddy might have to put me in a special place for kids like me. But Mom says that will never happen, because families stick together no matter what." Elena felt her heart clench at the reminder of Vivian's psychological manipulation. "Maya," Ms. Chen said gently, "how does it feel when Elena teaches you new things?" Maya's face lit up. "It feels like my brain is growing. Mom never makes me feel stupid for asking questions, and she helps me learn hard things by breaking them into smaller pieces. Can you give me an example? Yesterday, Mom taught me about fractions by cutting up a pizza. Now I understand that 3/4 is bigger than 1/2 because I could see it. And when we do science experiments, Mom explains why things happen instead of just telling me to watch." Ms. Chen looked impressed despite herself. "That sounds like very effective teaching. Mom says I'm naturally curious, and that's a good thing. She says questions are how we learn." After lunch, Ms. Chen spoke privately with Derek and Elena while Maya played in her room. "I have to say, Maya seems remarkably well-adjusted and happy. Her vocabulary, her confidence, her emotional maturity, she's clearly thriving in this environment." Elena felt cautious hope. "Does that mean the investigation is concluding positively?" "I still need to review all the documentation and teacher reports, but based on what I've observed, I see no evidence of neglect or inappropriate care. In fact, Maya appears to be receiving exceptional nurturing and educational support." Derek felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. "Ms. Chen, I know the circumstances look unusual, a quick marriage, a housekeeper becoming a stepmother, but Elena loves Maya like her own child, and Maya has flourished under her care. Mr. Coleman, unconventional doesn't mean inappropriate. What matters is the child's welfare, and Maya is clearly loved, safe, and thriving. However, I do want to address the adoption proceedings you mentioned." "Is there a problem with Elena adopting Maya?" Derek asked. "Quite the opposite. Given the circumstances, Maya's mother is deceased, she's been in Elena's care for months, and the child clearly wants the adoption. The court would likely view this favorably. It would also resolve any future questions about Elena's legal authority to make decisions for Maya." Elena felt tears of relief beginning to form. "So Maya will be able to stay with us?" "Ms. Hayes, Mrs. Coleman, based on everything I've seen, Maya is exactly where she belongs. I'll be recommending that the case be closed with no further action required." After Ms. Chen left, the three of them sat in the living room, finally able to exhale. "So that's it?" Elena asked. "We're really going to be okay?" Derek pulled both his wife and daughter close. "We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be a family." Maya looked up at them with shining eyes. "The best family in the whole world." As evening settled over their home, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. She'd started as a housekeeper looking for work, and had found something infinitely more precious, a family that loved her, a child who called her Mom, and a future bright with possibility. But even as they celebrated this victory, none of them could have predicted that Vivian still had one more card to play, one final attempt to destroy the happiness She couldn't bear to see flourish without her. 2 months after the DFCS investigation concluded, just as Derek, Elena, and Maya were settling into their new life as a legally recognized family, Vivian Sterling Coleman reappeared with a vengeance that would test everything they'd built together. It started with a certified letter delivered on a Tuesday morning while Maya was at school. Derek signed for it, noting the law firm's letterhead with growing dread. "Eleanor," he called from his office, "can you come here for a minute?" Eleanor found Derek staring at legal documents spread across his desk, his face pale with shock. "What is it?" "Vivian is suing for visitation rights with Maya." Eleanor felt the world tilt slightly. "What? How can she sue for visitation?" "She's not Maya's biological mother." Derek held up the papers. "According to this, she's claiming that she acted as Maya's primary caregiver for 2 years, that she has established a significant relationship with the child, and that the court should recognize her parental interests under Georgia's third-party visitation statutes." Eleanor sank into a chair. "Can she do that?" "Apparently, Georgia law allows for visitation rights in cases where someone has acted in a parental role, even without formal adoption. Vivian's lawyer is arguing that her sudden removal from Maya's life constitutes emotional harm to the child." "Emotional harm? Vivian barely tolerated Maya," Derek continued reading. "She's also claiming that our marriage was fraudulent, entered into solely to circumvent the DFCS investigation, and that Maya is being alienated from her established parental figure." Eleanor felt sick. Derek, Maya was terrified of Vivian. She locked her in her room, starved her, psychologically abused her. "We know that. But proving it in court is different from knowing it ourselves." Elena thought of Maya, currently at school learning about planets and practicing her reading, blissfully unaware that the woman who had made her life miserable was trying to force her way back into it. "What does our lawyer say?" Derek picked up his phone. "I'm about to find out." Dr. Thompson's assessment was sobering but not hopeless. "Vivian's claim isn't frivolous," he explained during their emergency meeting that afternoon. "Georgia courts do recognize that children can form significant bonds with non-biological caregivers, and they're reluctant to sever those bonds without compelling evidence that visitation wouldn't be in the child's best interest." "But Maya doesn't want to see Vivian," Eleanor protested. "Doesn't her preference matter? At 8 years old, Maya's preferences will be considered but won't be determinative. The court will want to hear from child psychologists, social workers, and other experts." Derek rubbed his temples. "What's Vivian's endgame here? She made it clear she never wanted to deal with Maya. My guess? Control and revenge. If she can't have your family, she wants to disrupt it. These visitation cases can drag on for months, creating ongoing instability and legal costs." Elena felt a cold fury building. "So she's willing to traumatize Maya just to hurt us?" "It appears so. However, we have some strong arguments in our favor. Maya's therapist records, teacher observations, the DFCS investigation results. All of these document Maya's improved well-being since Vivian left." "What do we tell Maya?" Derek asked. Dr. Thompson's expression was grave. "We'll have to tell her something. The court will likely want to interview her, and Vivian's lawyer may request supervised visitation pending the final decision." That evening, Derek and Elena faced the hardest conversation of their marriage. Maya was at the kitchen table working on a science project about solar system when they sat down beside her. "Maya, sweetheart, we need to talk to you about something important." Maya looked up from her model of Saturn's rings, immediately sensing the serious tone. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby," Elena assured her quickly. "You didn't do anything wrong, but Vivian is trying to ask a judge if she can visit with you sometimes." Maya's face went very still. "I don't want to visit with Vivian. We know that, sweetheart, and we're going to fight to make sure you don't have to. But there might be some grown-ups who want to ask you questions about Vivian and about living with us." "What kind of questions?" Derek chose his words carefully. "They might ask how you feel about your family, what you remember about living with Vivian, whether you feel safe and happy now." Maya considered this with her characteristic seriousness. "And if I tell them the truth about how Vivian made me feel scared and sad, they'll let me stay with you?" "We hope so, Maya. But the truth is very important, even if it's hard to talk about." Maya nodded firmly. "I'll tell them the truth. Vivian never loved me like you love me. She made me feel small and stupid. But you make me feel big and smart." Eleanor hugged Maya close, marveling at this little girl's courage and clarity. "Maya, do you understand that we'll always be your family no matter what happens?" "Yes, because you adopted me, so now you're legally required to love me forever." Elena and Derek laughed despite their worry. Maya's understanding of legal obligations was charmingly literal. The next few weeks brought a parade of court-appointed experts to their home. Child psychologists interviewed Maya, observed family interactions, and reviewed her records from school and therapy. Elena watched nervously as Maya answered questions about her daily routine, her feelings about Derek and Elena, and her memories of life with Vivian. Maya's honesty was both heartbreaking and hopeful. She described feeling afraid to make noise when Vivian was home, being locked in her room for hours, and believing she was broken because Vivian constantly criticized her. In contrast, she spoke about Elena and Derek with pure joy, describing feeling safe, loved, and encouraged to learn and grow. Maya, Dr. Sarah Williams, the court-appointed child psychologist, asked during one session, "If you could choose, would you want to spend time with Vivian?" Maya's answer was immediate and clear. "No, Vivian doesn't make me feel good about myself. She makes me feel like there's something wrong with me." "Can you tell me more about that?" "Vivian used to say I was too slow and too messy and too loud. She said normal kids wouldn't want to be my friend. But Mum says I'm not too anything. I'm just right the way I am." Dr. Williams made notes, clearly moved by Maya's articulate description of psychological harm. "Maya, do you feel loved in your family with Derek and Elena?" Maya's face lit up. "So loved. Dad reads me stories and helps me with math, and Mom teaches me about art and science and makes me feel like I can learn anything. They think I'm smart and special, not broken." The day of the custody hearing arrived gray and rainy, matching the family's mood. Maya was staying with Rosa Martinez for the day while Derek and Elena faced Vivian in court. Seeing Vivian again after months was jarring. She looked as polished and beautiful as ever, but there was something desperate in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Vivian's lawyer painted a picture of a devoted stepmother cruelly separated from a child she'd helped raise, arguing that Maya needed continuity and that Derek had impulsively destroyed a stable family structure. "My client devoted 2 years of her life to caring for Maya Coleman," the lawyer argued. "She attended school meetings, medical appointments, and therapy sessions. To suddenly sever this relationship without consideration for the child's emotional needs is harmful and traumatic." Elena felt sick listening to this revised history, where Vivian was portrayed as a loving caregiver, rather than the manipulative woman who had psychologically abused Maya. Dr. Thompson presented their case methodically, introducing evidence of Maya's improved academic performance, emotional well-being, and social development since Vivian's departure. "Your Honor, every metric of child welfare shows that Maya has flourished since my clients became her sole caregivers. Her teachers report increased confidence and academic achievement. Her therapist notes decreased anxiety and improved self-esteem. The DFCS investigation found a happy, healthy child in a loving home." The turning point came when Dr. Williams testified about her psychological evaluation of Maya. "In my professional opinion, Maya Coleman has experienced significant trauma related to her time with the plaintiff. She exhibits classic signs of psychological abuse, fear of disappointing adults, anxiety about making mistakes, and a deep-seated belief that she was inherently flawed. This trauma has been healing rapidly in her current environment." Vivian's lawyer tried to discredit Dr. Williams' findings, but the evidence was overwhelming. Maya's own words, recorded during therapy sessions, painted a clear picture of emotional neglect and psychological manipulation. When Judge Patterson called for a recess, Derek and Elena stepped into the hallway, holding hands and trying to stay calm. "Elena," Derek said quietly, "whatever happens, we'll fight this. Maya belongs with us. I know, I just hate that she has to go through this because Vivian can't accept that she lost." When court reconvened, Judge Patterson's decision was swift and decisive. After reviewing all evidence and expert testimony, this court finds that visitation with the plaintiff would not be in the best interests of the minor child. Maya Coleman has demonstrated clear preference for her current caregivers, has shown marked improvement in all areas of development since the plaintiff's departure from the home, and has expressed fear and anxiety regarding potential contact with the plaintiff. Elena felt tears of relief streaming down her face. Furthermore, Judge Patterson continued, the evidence suggests that the plaintiff's relationship with the child was characterized by psychological harm rather than nurturing care. This court will not order a child to maintain contact with an adult who has caused documented emotional trauma. Vivian's face went white, then red with fury. As the judge dismissed the case permanently, Vivian turned to Derek with venom in her eyes. "This isn't over," she hissed as they left the courtroom. But Derek looked at his wife, thought of their daughter waiting at home, and realized that for them it was over. They had won, not just the legal battle, but something far more important. They had won the right to be a family. The victory in court should have been the end of Vivian's attempts to disrupt their family. But Elena knew better than to trust that someone so vindictive would simply accept defeat. Her instincts proved correct 3 weeks later, when Vivian appeared at their door during Derek's business trip to Chicago. Eleanor was in the garden with Maya, teaching her about companion planting, when Rosa hurried outside with worried eyes. "Eleanor, Mrs. Sterling is at the front door. She says she has legal papers that require Maya to come with her for a court-ordered evaluation." Elena's blood turned to ice. "What legal papers?" "The case was dismissed. She has documents." "They look official." Elena's mind raced. Derek was unreachable on a plane back from Chicago. Their lawyer was in court with another case, and Maya was happily explaining how marigolds protect tomatoes from harmful insects. "Maya, sweetheart, can you help Rosa water the plants? I need to handle something inside." Maya looked up with concern. "Is everything okay, Mom?" Eleanor forced a smile. "Everything's fine. Just some boring grown-up stuff." Elena found Vivian in the foyer, immaculately dressed and holding a manila folder. The sight of her in their home again made Elena's skin crawl. "Vivian, the case was dismissed. You have no legal right to be here." Vivian's smile was triumphant. "Actually, Elena, I do. These are papers for a psychological evaluation ordered by the appeals court. Maya needs to come with me for assessment at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta." Elena's hands trembled as she examined the documents. They looked legitimate, bearing official seals and signatures, but something felt wrong. "I need to call our lawyer before Maya goes anywhere with you." "The order is immediate," Vivian said smoothly. "Any delay could be considered contempt of court. You wouldn't want to jeopardize Maya's placement with Derek, would you?" Eleanor felt trapped. The documents looked real. Vivian's confidence seemed absolute and Derek was unreachable, but every instinct screamed that this was wrong. "Vivian, even if these papers are legitimate, Maya doesn't have to go with you specifically. I can take her to the evaluation myself. The papers specify that I'm to escort her as the requesting party." "Elena, don't make this harder than it needs to be." Elena looked toward the garden where Maya was innocently playing, unaware that her world was about to be turned upside down. The thought of Vivian alone with Maya made her physically ill. "I'm coming with you. The evaluation is private, but if it makes you feel better, you can follow us to the hospital." Elena knew she was being manipulated, but she couldn't risk defying what appeared to be a court order. She went to get Maya, her heart breaking at having to disrupt the child's peaceful afternoon. "Maya, sweetheart, we need to take a little trip to see a doctor." Maya's face immediately clouded with worry. "Am I sick?" "No, baby. It's just a routine appointment. But Vivian is going to drive you there, and I'll follow in our car." Maya's eyes went wide with fear. "I have to go with Vivian? By myself?" Elena knelt down to Maya's level. "I'll be right behind you the whole time, and I'll be waiting for you at the hospital. It's just a short ride." But as Elena watched Vivian's car pull out of their driveway with Maya in the passenger seat, she had a terrible feeling that she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Elena followed at a distance, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. When Vivian's car passed the exit for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Elena's worst fears were confirmed. She tried calling Derek repeatedly, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She called Dr. Thompson's office, but he was still in court. Panic rising, Eleanor continued following Vivian's car as it headed toward an upscale neighborhood in Buckhead. Vivian pulled into the driveway of a massive colonial house that Elena didn't recognize. This wasn't a hospital or medical facility. This was someone's home. Elena parked across the street and watched as Vivian escorted a clearly frightened Maya to the front door. When they disappeared inside, Elena made a decision that would later seem reckless, but felt absolutely necessary in the moment. She climbed over the privacy fence into the backyard and found an unlocked patio door. The house was quiet except for voices coming from what appeared to be a home office. Eleanor crept through the unfamiliar house, following the sound of conversation until she could see Maya sitting rigidly in a leather chair while Vivian paced behind a desk. "Maya," Vivian was saying in a voice Elena had never heard before, gentle, almost hypnotic. "I need you to understand something very important. Elena and your father have been lying to you." Maya's voice was small and scared. "What do you mean?" "They've been filling your head with ideas about being special and smart, but it's not true. You have a disability, Maya. You'll never be able to do the things normal children do." Eleanor felt rage building in her chest, but she forced herself to stay hidden and listen. "Eleanor has been pretending to care about you because she wants to steal your father's money. Once she gets what she wants, she'll put you in an institution where you belong." "That's not true," Maya's voice was stronger now. "Mom loves me. She teaches me things and makes me feel smart." "Maya, listen to me carefully. I'm the only one who truly understands your limitations. I'm the only one who can protect you from the disappointment of trying to be something you're not." Elena watched Maya's face cycle through confusion, fear, and then something remarkable: determination. "Vivian," Maya said with a clarity that surprised everyone, "you're lying. Maya, you're lying like you lied about the bracelet. You're trying to make me feel bad about myself again." Vivian's mask began to slip. "Maya, you don't understand. I understand that you never loved me. I understand that you made me feel small and scared. And I understand that you're trying to do it again." Eleanor watched Vivian's composure crack as Maya spoke truth with the devastating honesty that only children possess. "Maya, you're just a child with Down syndrome. You don't understand complex adult situations. I understand more than you think. I understand that love makes you feel good about yourself, and you never made me feel good. Elena makes me feel like I can do anything, and you make me feel like I can't do anything." Vivian's voice turned harsh. "Elena is filling your head with impossible dreams. When you fail, and you will fail, you'll come crawling back, begging for someone who understands your limitations." "I won't fail," Maya said with stunning confidence. "Mom believes in me, so I believe in me." Eleanor saw Vivian's careful control finally shatter completely. "Maya, you are a burden," Vivian screamed. "You're a disabled child who will never amount to anything. Your father only keeps you out of guilt, and Elena only pretends to love you for money." Maya started crying, but her voice remained steady. "That's not true." "It is true. I spent 2 years pretending to care about you, pretending to love you, when all I wanted was for Derek to put you somewhere else so we could have a normal life." Elena realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. Vivian was confessing everything in her fury at being confronted by an 8-year-old's unwavering truth. "You were supposed to be temporary," Vivian continued, her voice venomous. "Derek was supposed to realize you were too much work, too much trouble. But you manipulated him with your innocent act." "I didn't manipulate anyone," Maya said through her tears. "I just loved Daddy, and he loves me back. He feels sorry for you. That's not the same thing." Eleanor had heard enough. She stepped into the room, her phone held high, the recording app capturing every word of Vivian's confession. "Actually, Vivian, Derek loves Maya exactly as she is, just like I do. Just like any real parent would." Vivian spun around, her face white with shock. "Elena, how did you—" "The legal papers were fake, weren't they?" Elena said calmly, still recording. "You forged court documents to kidnap Maya." "I didn't forge anything." "We'll let the police determine that. But thank you for confessing on record that you never loved Maya, that you saw her as a burden, and that you've been psychologically abusing her for 2 years." Vivian lunged for Elena's phone, but Elena stepped back. "Maya, sweetheart, come to me." Maya ran to Elena's arms, sobbing with relief. "It's okay, baby, I've got you. Vivian can never hurt you again." As Elena held her daughter, she continued recording Vivian's increasingly frantic attempts to justify her actions. "Eleanor, you don't understand the pressure. I understand perfectly. You saw a vulnerable child as an obstacle to your comfort, and you systematically tried to destroy her self-worth. Maya needed structure. Maya needed love, something you were incapable of providing." Elena ended the recording and looked at Vivian with disgust and pity. "You know what the saddest part is, Vivian? Maya could have loved you. She wanted to love you. You had the chance to be part of an extraordinary child's life, and you threw it away because you couldn't see past your own selfishness. Vivian's face crumpled. For a moment, Elena saw not a manipulative villain, but a broken woman who had lost everything through her own inability to love. "I never wanted children," Vivian whispered. "I married Derek for security, for status. I didn't sign up for a special needs child." "Then you shouldn't have married a man with a daughter," Elena said firmly. "Children aren't optional when you marry a parent." Elena gathered Maya's things and headed for the door. "Elena," Vivian called after them, "what are you going to do with that recording?" Elena turned back, Maya safe in her arms. "I'm going to make sure you never have the opportunity to hurt another child the way you hurt mine." As they left the house, Maya looked up at Elena with tear-stained cheeks. "Mom, why does Vivian hate me so much?" Elena's heart broke for this little girl who couldn't understand how anyone could fail to see her worth. "Oh, sweetheart, Vivian doesn't hate you. Vivian hates herself. Hurt people sometimes try to make other people hurt too. But that says nothing about you and everything about her. Will she try to take me away again?" Elena hugged Maya tighter. "Never again, baby. I promise you that." And as they drove home to wait for Derek's return, Elena knew that this time her promise was one she could keep. The recording of Vivian's confession changed everything. Within 24 hours of Elena turning it over to the police and their lawyer, Vivian Sterling Coleman's world collapsed in a cascade of legal consequences that she had never anticipated. Derek returned from Chicago to find his family safe but shaken, and Elena's phone recording played back Vivian's venomous words with crystal clarity. As he listened to the woman he'd once married call his daughter a burden and confess to years of psychological abuse, Derek felt a rage deeper than anything he'd ever experienced. "Derek," Dr. Thompson said during their emergency meeting, "this recording is devastating for Vivian. She's confessed to forging legal documents, kidnapping a minor, and years of psychological abuse. She's also admitted that her marriage to you was based on deception." Elena sat with Maya on her lap, the little girl having refused to leave her mother's side since the terrifying incident at Vivian's friend's house. "What does this mean legally?" Derek asked. "It means Vivian will face criminal charges for the kidnapping and document forgery. It also means she'll never have any legal claim to Maya again. No court in Georgia would grant visitation rights to someone who's confessed to seeing the child as a burden and actively working to undermine her well-being." Maya looked up at Elena with wise eyes. "Mom, does this mean Vivian can't hurt our family anymore?" Elena smoothed Maya's hair gently. "That's exactly what it means, sweetheart." Dr. Thompson continued with the details. "Vivian's lawyer has already contacted me. They want to negotiate a settlement to avoid criminal prosecution." "What kind of settlement?" Derek asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't interested in showing Vivian any mercy. "Complete relinquishment of any claims to Maya, a restraining order preventing contact with your family, and a written confession that can be used if she ever tries to interfere in Maya's life again." Elena felt Maya relax in her arms for the first time in days. "Will she agree to that?" Elena asked. "Given the alternative is prison time for kidnapping and fraud, I think she will." 3 days later, Vivian Sterling Coleman signed documents that officially and permanently removed her from Maya's life. She agreed to a restraining order that prevented her from coming within 500 feet of Maya, Derek, or Elena, and she provided a written statement acknowledging that her previous claims about caring for Maya had been false. Elena watched Vivian sign the papers in Dr. Thompson's office, noting how the woman who had once seemed so powerful now looked diminished and defeated. "Vivian," Elena said as they prepared to leave, "I want you to know that I don't hate you." Vivian looked up with surprise. "I pity you," Elena continued. "You had the chance to love an extraordinary child, and you chose fear and selfishness instead. That's a loss that will follow you for the rest of your life." Vivian's eyes filled with what might have been tears or might have been rage. "Elena, you have no idea what it's like to suddenly become responsible for a disabled child." "You're right," Elena interrupted. "I have no idea what it's like to see responsibility where I should see privilege. I have no idea what it's like to see burden where I should see blessing. And I hope I never find out." Derek took Elena's hand and led her toward the door. "Goodbye, Vivian. I hope someday you learn what love actually means." As they left the law office, Maya skipped between Derek and Elena, holding both their hands. Are we really free now? She asked. We're really free, Derek confirmed. Good, Maya said with satisfaction. Now we can focus on being happy instead of being scared. 2 months later, the Coleman family faced a very different kind of legal proceeding, Maya's formal adoption hearing. Unlike the contentious custody battles they'd endured, this courtroom was filled with joy and celebration. Judge Martinez, who had married Derek and Eleanor months earlier, presided over the adoption with obvious pleasure. Maya Coleman, she said, smiling at the little girl who sat between her parents, do you understand what adoption means? Maya nodded seriously. It means Elena will be my mom on all my official papers, and nothing can ever change that. That's exactly right, and is that what you want? More than anything in the whole world? Judge Martinez turned to Eleanor. Elena Coleman, do you promise to love, protect, and nurture Maya as your own daughter for the rest of your life? Eleanor's voice was thick with emotion. I promise. I already love her as my own daughter, and nothing could make me prouder than making that official. Then, by the power vested in me by the state of Georgia, I hereby grant this petition for adoption. Maya Coleman, Eleanor Coleman is now your legal mother in every sense of the word. The courtroom erupted in cheers from the small crowd of supporters, Rosa, Mrs. Patterson, Dr. Williams, and several of Maya's classmates and their families who had become like extended family. Maya threw her arms around Elena's neck. Now you're my mom forever and ever. Forever and ever, Elena confirmed, tears streaming down her face. That evening, the Coleman family celebrated at home with a party that Maya had helped plan. The house was decorated with Maya's artwork, including a new family portrait that showed 3 figures surrounded by hearts and butterflies. Maya, Derek said as they gathered in the living room for gifts, Elena and I have something special for you. Maya bounced with excitement as Elena handed her a wrapped package. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound book titled Maya's Story, with her name embossed in gold on the cover. What is it? Maya asked, running her fingers over the smooth leather. It's your story, Elena explained. Everything that's happened to bring us together as a family. Your art, your school achievements, photos of our adventures together. It's all here. Maya flipped through the pages, her eyes growing wide at seeing her journey documented with such love and care. Look, Derek pointed to a particular page. Here's the first drawing you made for Elena. And here, Elena added, is the picture you drew of our wedding day. Maya studied each page carefully, then looked up at her parents with shining eyes. This is the most beautiful book in the world, she declared. It's the story of how I got the best family ever. As the evening wound down and they tucked Maya into bed, she looked up at Elena with contentment. Mom, do you think other kids like me will find families that love them too? Eleanor considered the question seriously. I hope so, sweetheart. But you know what? Every family that gets a kid like you is incredibly lucky. Why? Because kids like you love bigger, see more beauty in the world, and teach the rest of us what really matters in life. Maya smiled sleepily. I'm glad I got you for my mom. I'm glad I got you for my daughter. As Elena and Derek settled into their own bedroom that night, they reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them together. Elena, Derek said softly, do you ever regret how complicated our beginning was? Eleanor thought about the question, remembering the fear, the legal battles, the uncertainty they'd faced. Derek, if I hadn't taken that housekeeping job, I never would have met Maya. I never would have found you. I never would have discovered what it means to love someone unconditionally and be loved the same way in return. So, no regrets. My only regret is that it took so long for us to find each other. Derek pulled Elena close. Do you think Maya will remember the bad times with Vivian when she gets older? I think Maya will remember that she overcame something difficult, that she was brave and strong, and that she ended up exactly where she belonged. Those aren't bad memories, they're triumph memories. And what about us? What will we remember? Elena smiled in the darkness. We'll remember that love isn't about perfection or convenience. We'll remember that the best families are built on choice, not just biology. And we'll remember that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. From down the hall came the sound of Maya talking softly to herself, as she often did before falling asleep. Tonight she was practicing introducing herself. Hi, I'm Maya Coleman, and these are my parents, Derek and Elena Coleman. We're a family that loves each other very much. Elena and Derek fell asleep smiling, knowing that Maya's simple introduction contained the most important truth of their lives. They were a family built on love, strengthened by adversity, and blessed beyond measure. 5 years later, Maya Coleman stood in front of Jefferson Elementary School, holding her mother's hand, her backpack decorated with butterfly patches and her face bright with nervous excitement. At 13, she had grown into a confident, articulate young woman whose Down syndrome was just one part of a much larger, more beautiful whole. "Are you ready for your first day of 8th grade?" Elena asked, smoothing Maya's carefully chosen outfit. "I'm ready," Maya said, then grinned. "But are the other kids ready for me?" Elena laughed. Maya's sense of humor had developed along with her confidence, and she now approached new challenges with optimism rather than fear. Derek emerged from the car where he'd been taking photos of Maya's first day at her new inclusion program. Over the past 5 years, Maya had excelled in her integrated classes, making honor roll repeatedly and becoming something of a celebrity for her artistic achievements. "Maya," Derek said, "remember what we talked about if anyone asks about your family." Maya straightened her shoulders with pride. "I tell them that I'm adopted, that Mom chose to be my mom, and that the best families are the ones where everyone chooses to love each other." "Perfect," Elena said, kissing Maya's forehead. As they watched Maya walk confidently toward the school building, stopping to help a younger student who had dropped her books, Elena marveled at the transformation. This was not the frightened, isolated child she'd first met 5 years ago. This was a young woman who knew her worth, trusted in love, and moved through the world with grace and purpose. "She's going to change lives in that school," Derek observed. "She's already changed ours," Elena replied. That evening, the Coleman family gathered around their dinner table, the same table where Maya had once eaten her sandwich in terrified silence, to share the stories of their day. Maya was animated as she described her new teachers, her excitement about the advanced art class she'd qualified for, and her plans for the science fair. "Mom," Maya said as Elena served dessert, "Mrs. Rodriguez asked me to be a peer mentor for the new special education students." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. What does a peer mentor do?" "I help kids who feel scared or different understand that being different can be amazing. I tell them about how you and Dad love me exactly as I am, and how that taught me to love myself." Elena felt the familiar swell of pride and emotion that came whenever Maya demonstrated the empathy and wisdom that had grown from her early struggles. "Maya," Derek said, "do you remember when you used to worry that you weren't smart enough or good enough?" Maya nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes I still worry about things. But then I remember what you taught me, that I don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love." "And what did Elena teach you?" Derek prompted. Maya's face lit up. "Mom taught me that being curious is more important than being right, that questions are how we grow, and that my brain works differently, but that different can be extraordinary." After dinner, Maya disappeared into her art studio, the converted basement space where she created the paintings that now hung in galleries around Atlanta. Elena and Derek settled into their favorite spot on the porch swing, watching the garden that Maya had helped design and plant. "Derek," Elena said softly, "do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't taken that job?" Derek considered the question. "Sometimes, but then I realized that somehow, someway, we would have found each other. Maya needed us, and we needed her. Love like that doesn't just happen by accident." Eleanor thought about the phone call she'd received that afternoon from a woman named Sandra, whose daughter with Down syndrome was struggling in a hostile home environment. Word had gotten out about Maya's story, and increasingly, families were reaching out for advice, support, and hope. "Derek, Sandra Martinez wants to bring her daughter Sophia to meet Maya. She's 8 years old, just placed in foster care after her biological family couldn't handle her needs." Derek nodded. "Maya would love that. She always lights up when she gets to help other kids." "I've been thinking," Elena continued, "maybe we should consider fostering or adopting another child. There are so many kids like Maya who just need someone to believe in them." Derek pulled Elena closer. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying our family has room for more love. Maya has taught us that love multiplies when you share it." From inside the house came the sound of Maya's voice, confident and clear, as she video-called her friend Jamie to discuss their plans for the school's upcoming talent show. "I think," Derek said, "that Maya would be thrilled to be a big sister. And I think," Elena added, "that we've learned something about family that most people never discover." "What's that?" "That the strongest families aren't built on obligation or biology. They're built on choice. Every day we choose to love each other. Every day we choose to believe in each other. Every day we choose to be family. Derek kissed Elena's temple as the sun set over their garden, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that reminded them both of Maya's artwork. "You know what the best part is?" Derek said. "What?" "Maya will never doubt that she's loved. Not for 1 second of her life. She'll never wonder if she's worthy, or if she belongs. She'll carry that certainty with her forever." Eleanor smiled, thinking of the scared little girl who had once apologized for existing, and the confident young woman who now moved through the world like she owned it. And she'll teach other kids that they're worthy too. Maya's story isn't just about finding a family. It's about learning to love yourself enough to recognize real love when you find it. As if summoned by their conversation, Maya appeared on the porch, her sketchpad in hand. "I'm drawing the sunset," she announced, settling cross-legged on the porch floor. "I want to capture how the colors reflect off the windows and make the whole house look golden." Eleanor and Derek watched their daughter work, her tongue slightly poking out in concentration, her hands moving with practiced skill across the paper. "Maya," Eleanor said softly, "what do you see when you look at our house?" Maya glanced up from her drawing with a smile that could power the city. "I see home. I see the place where I learned that I'm enough just as I am. I see the family that taught me love isn't something you have to earn. It's something you receive as a gift and then share with the world." She returned to her drawing, adding careful details that captured not just the visual beauty of the moment, but the emotional warmth that surrounded them. "And," Maya added without looking up, "I see the beginning of every other kid's story who needs to know that families like ours exist. Families where love is bigger than fear, where different is celebrated and where everyone belongs." Elena reached for Derek's hand as they watched their daughter create art that would someday hang in galleries, read words she'd written that would inspire other families, and spread the kind of unconditional love that had saved them all. Maya Coleman had entered their lives as a job, a responsibility to be managed, a challenge to be endured. She had become their greatest teacher, their deepest joy, and the living proof that families aren't accidents of biology, but miracles of choice. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Maya held up her finished drawing, a perfect capture of their home bathed in golden light, with 3 figures visible through the window, hands clasped together in an unbreakable circle of love. "There," she said with satisfaction. "That's our family. The family that loves me exactly as I am." Elena looked at the drawing, then at Derek, then at Maya, and felt her heart overflow with gratitude for the unexpected journey that had brought them together. They were indeed the family that loved Maya exactly as she was. But more than that, they were the family that had learned to love themselves and each other through Maya's eyes, seeing beauty instead of limitation, possibility instead of fear, and blessing instead of burden. In the end, Maya had saved them as much as they had saved her. And that, Elena thought as they headed inside for the evening, was exactly how the best families were built. Not through perfection, but through the choice to love completely, without condition, and forever. The story of Maya Coleman and the family that chose her was really the story of how love, when given freely and without reservation, has the power to transform everyone it touches. And in a world that often saw Maya's Down syndrome as a limitation, the Coleman family had discovered the truth, that Maya wasn't different despite her disability. She was extraordinary because of her unique way of seeing and experiencing love. That was the gift she gave to everyone who knew her, and the legacy she would carry forward as she grew into adulthood, surrounded by the unshakable knowledge that she was perfectly, completely, absolutely loved.